And good morning. It is a Tuesday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn Clark. He's Griffin. Much to do on the program today. And then tonight, the Tyus Bowser Show, Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. We kick off at 7 o'clock. I get messages. I get inundated with people, hey, who's Tyus' guest? We think we know who it is. But until it's like triple confirmed, we don't want to say, hey, this person said yes. And Tyus always wants to make sure that, like, he's triple confirmed that a person is coming out. And based on who the person would be, I don't blame him because it's a significant guest that would be joining him. So we're not saying anything yet, but we're expecting to have a great night tonight. Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North, 7 o'clock for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's memorabilia, brought to you by HelpMyGamblingProblem.org and Superbook Sports. I'm hoping that I can get this man out to a Tyus Bowser Show. He's basically a character on the show anyway because I reference the conversations that I have with him so frequently, so we figured we might as well just go ahead and do it on the show. He is, of course, Baltimore's own, the star of stage and screen. Our friend, Mr. Josh Charles, is with us this morning. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Glenn, good morning, my friend. Griff, good morning.
How did you have a restful fast? Everything good?
Yeah, I was down in Baltimore actually. I came down for the weekend. I brought my son, and we went to the game on Sunday, unfortunately, and then watched a little baseball Friday and Saturday, and yeah, it was nice. We just got back last night, but it was always nice to be home.
I
Hoping
appreciate
to come down some more.
Josh and I are in agreement. Like, we've said what needs to be said. It stinks that the Ravens lost, but we've said what needs to be said, and I think we're in agreement that, like, it doesn't really tell us all that much about the Ravens. So
yeah, I mean, that's kind of why I love texting you. Is I feel like you have such a good point of view about it, and can ground me because when it finished and I left and I realized, I'm 52 years old, and I'm with my son, so I'm trying to be very careful about how I process the game because I tend to get very emotional.
Dude.
And I think it's sometimes just you got to get a little bit of a gut check, saying, hey, is what we saw, like, I don't think we're crazy, right? I think we're on to something. We've just got to believe, let it happen. This is a weird hiccup. Yeah, so many things went wrong, that you just have to say, hey, I'm going to judge this team by the next 3 weeks, and see where we're at. Right? I think we got really big games coming up. If there's ever a time to just put that one in the past and look forward, we got a tough defense to face, and then another tough defense to face, and then we're going to London. So I think these are the next 3 weeks. We're going to learn a lot more about this team, all angles. And hopefully we get some guys back.
That's the part. Yep. And that's where if these dudes were all going to be out for the season, then I'd be panicked. But the assumption that they're coming back, I think they're going to be okay. So we can deal with that, and you and I will obviously have plenty of opportunities to talk more. But in the meantime, the Orioles, with a magic number of 3, get back on the field tonight for a short series. Actually, it's a 3-game series against the Nationals. And you are basically the face of this. Like, when people think of Baltimore sports fans, they think of you very high on the list, right? I wonder if you can explain what this has meant to you. Because unlike me, you were actually old enough to remember. I'm not trying to age you, but as you just pointed out, like, you were alive a little bit before I was. You actually you have memories of the Orioles winning a World Series. I was, a month old when it occurred.
Right, exactly. You're my wife's age. So,
yeah.
It's sort of right. You guys both just turned 40 this year. So, no, it's true. It's hard to put into words. I know you wrote beautifully about it in PressBox, and I, we texted about it. I've talked to Stan about it, and it's what an incredible gift we're given to be able to experience this with our children, right? Because they've lived through so many bad Oriole teams, and to see not only just an incredible season, but the nucleus that is here for this team, that if we're able to keep it together, and that's a whole separate conversation, hopefully we can, but that this could be theirs for a long time to enjoy. It's overwhelming, honestly. And if I talk too much about it, I might get emotional, because I was watching this video yesterday on the train. There was one of these little MLB videos where they they did a whole thing about the Orioles and going to the playoffs and the different players talking, and Elias was talking, and Hyde, and they went into the history of the Orioles championships. And it just gives you goosebumps, man. I mean, you think about, like, we waited a long time. And so I think about if the Orioles can actually do this, whether it's this season, or in the next few seasons, it's going to be an incredibly cathartic, emotional experience for me, and I'm sure many others, because it's just it's too much also about the city. It's such a connection to the city. This team, when the Colts left, it's all we had. I think that bond just deepened even more, and then with the crown jewel of Camden Yards, coupled with those other than the beginning good seasons, just a historically bad run of teams that just were horrible, that we had to sit through, that this love affair has never faded with the true fans. And I think the fact that we're in this conversation even, right, is just it's so exciting to me. And I find it very moving, because I realize how much I'm affected by my sports teams. I mean, even Sundays, I was trying to explain, like, just trying to take a couple deep breaths, realize it's a game, relax. And I always remind myself, the game, as upset as I am, I can only imagine how Harbs, Eric, and the team feels. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, there's that great video of the guy from Denver, was he a defensive lineman?
Garrett Bowles, the offensive lineman. Yeah.
He's like, I've been here 7 years, all I know is losing, and it's just somebody wrote.
Oh, hang on. Griffin wants to share it again, because we love this audio.
Shit.
So, yeah.
It's,
yeah.
Tired of losing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been here for 7 years, and all I've done is lost.
With his deep Scotty McCreery voice, Garrett Bowles, who's sick of – and I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
Yeah, no, I don't blame him, and it just shows you, it's like, these guys want to win just as much as the fans, if not more. They take this hard, and if you care about what you do, how can you not?
I'll give you hang on, Josh, I'll give you a little basic comparison, because we do the Tyus Bowser show, and every time it happens after a win, like literally by 8 a.m. on Monday morning, Tyus is like, oh, here's who's coming out tomorrow night. They're fired up, ready to go. And every time it happens after a loss, like today, we are sitting here on Tuesday morning waiting, waiting to find out. It's just how it is, man. That. No, I'm not.
Though. I mean, after a loss, after a win, Orioles, Ravens, you can't keep me from my computer or my phone. I want to go and read everything. I'll read every article ever written about the game, the series, the team. And if we lose, I don't want to look at anything.
Right. I just want to go into a cocoon. Right. Let's not relive it.
You know what? I saw it. I watched it. I don't need to hear what Mike Preston has to say about it. I don't care. Right? But if we win.
I get it. After last Sunday, the glory of last Sunday when the Ravens are winning in Cincinnati and the Orioles are clinching a playoff spot, I wanted to breathe in it for 72 hours afterwards. I wanted to just relive it as much as possible. I get it. I completely understand it, man. It's something.
Go ahead.
Well, something that you said in there really resonated with me, and it's. I try to explain it to people because it's not like what you say about the love of baseball and Baltimore being a baseball town. I feel like what's missed is, and I'll make this comparison because here we go. Tomorrow, Cal Ripken is on the show, right? And
oh, wow.
I don't get emotional. I have great reverence for, and I've gotten to know Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and Jonathan Ogden and guys like that over the years, and I appreciate it when they call in. But I get emotional every time I find out the Cal's calling in because, it's a part of life, baseball. Football is an event. And it's great, and for what we do for, what I do for a living, it's wonderful because you can talk about football for an entire week, and there's a different storyline every day, but it only happens once a week, whereas baseball is intrinsically, part of your life. You invite these you invited Gary Thorne and Jim Palmer, and now Kevin Brown and Ben McDonald into your home for 3 hours every night during the course of a summer, and these players, they are a part of who you are. And baseball, because of it, I think drives deeper emotions, which doesn't mean it's not special. I don't want it to sound like I'm trashing football, but the comparison of how much investment, how much time you spend with a baseball team it will never be the exact same when it comes to football because you spend so much time with these guys and hearing their stories for hours every evening. And I think it does drive an emotion that's a little bit deeper and a little bit closer sheerly because the amount of volume that exists for baseball.
I agree. I mean, I think that's well said. I would just add to it that I think part of it is also that just baseball is more reflective of life in the sense of that it's built around failure. You know what I mean? That you have, like, I mean, just any given day, you know, a guy gets 3 hits out of 10, right? I mean, he's failing 7% of the time, and he's an all-star. I mean, just the idea that the ebb and flow of it, and that it's every day, right? And so that you have a bad day, you get back up. I feel like it's like why we love doing the theater. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, you just, nothing's permanent, right? You just, you keep going, and you have that chance as a baseball team to kind of keep going and work through that. Whereas football, being that it's a week apart, right? There's just so much emphasis put on each game, right? Each game is so important. And so the whole week in between is just, I find it brutal, you know, like, so thank God for the Orioles this week, because I think for a fan base that most of us, I think who are level-headed, agree with us that, like, let's say that's a hiccup. But the fact that we have the Orioles to focus on this week and try to clinch this division, we got, you know, magic number of 3. Think about that. We haven't had that in a long time, to be able to not just think about the Ravens for the week. Like, let the Ravens go figure it out. Let them get better, you know, figure it all out. And we can just focus on the Orioles, and just emotionally what that will help us as fans, I think, is pretty huge.
I love that.
So thank you, Orioles, for that as well.
All right, he's Mr. Josh Charles. He is with us here on GCR. Josh, with that said, let's dive into some Orioles stuff this week. And I'm actually, unbeknownst to you, I might rope you into something we're doing for PressBox, because we've asked a lot of our own personalities to share team MVP and runner-up for the season.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna bring this to you, because I just turned mine in yesterday, and I struggled with it. Like, Stan and I had a conversation on Friday, and I know you listen a lot. I don't know if you heard the conversation that we had on Friday. And he came to the table with 4 candidates, and my guy literally wasn't on his list. And I think I actually
talked about Bradish.
Yeah,
Bradish?
And I think I talked him into it.
He was like, you make a lot of really good points, and you did. I was listening to it thinking the same thing. I mean, he would have been on my list. I mean, my list is I can't remember exactly who the 4 you guys had, but it's Bradish, Bautista, Adley, and Gunnar, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those 4. And I feel like, I think Bradish, you know, just that full-on ace material, the consistency that he's brought, I think he's like, a 4.3 WAR, right? I mean, is that right for
correct.
the year?
That is correct.
I looked up.
I'll give you what I said about Bradish real quick, right? Like, I'll just give it away. Bradish's 4.3 WAR is actually 6th among all pitchers in baseball this season, which is staggering. He's been the ace we've clamored for. The numbers he's posted are the best for an Orioles starter since Messina in 1992. 31 years ago was the last time we saw a pitching season like this from a Baltimore Oriole.
Yep.
Who's your guy?
That's amazing. Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking the thing about Bautista is, I mean, if you look at those losses, you know, on this last road trip, I mean, I think that makes a case for him as MVP, right? Because I think we win 2 of those games if he's still here pitching, and maybe we've already clinched it. I mean, I'm serious. I think you have to think about him as well and put him in the conversation. And then on the offensive side, to me, it's between Gunnar and it's between Adley. And I guess, you know, I lean towards Gunnar because he's just been such a revelation this year. I mean, obvious Rookie of the Year. I mean, you know, what does he have, a 5.9 WAR this year? The discipline at the plate, versatility in the infield, his power, hustle. But above all else, I would give it to him for no other reason alone, his passion and his energy. His passion and his energy on the field, the way he plays, is so contagious. You can feel it, what it does to teammates. As a fan, I'm blown away by it, because so many of these guys are just they've been kept in check to keep their emotions and keep everything close. And you see this guy, it's like watching a Little League game. I mean, he is out there. He is excited. And I love that. when he doesn't get a hit, you see him yelling at himself. When he makes a triple, he's banging his hand into the plate. I can't get enough of that. So I love him. I cannot believe he's only batting .258. I was looking it up and asking Griffin before I came on.
And so much of that is because of the first month and a half of the season, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. He's batting. I mean, he had a little dip in September, but from July, he's basically been a .286 hitter with the little dip in September, bringing it back. But then you go Adley, because I feel like he's kind of the forgotten man a little bit this year because of the conversation of Bradish, the conversation of Gunnar, the consistency that he brings, how he helps that pitching staff, and his clutch hitting. I don't know. I'm going to have to go either Gunnar or Adley, and I'm probably going to go Gunnar just because, Adley had it last year. Did he win MVP last year?
Yeah, Adley was MVP last year.
Yeah, so I'm giving it to Gunnar this year. Gunnar's my vote. I know it's probably the most obvious one, and I think I'd be happy with Bradish as well, but I'm giving it to Gunnar.
For the record, I do think Gunnar is going to win, and I say that in what I wrote. Like, Gunnar's my runner-up, and I think he's going to win the award, and I don't think everything you said is extraordinarily meaningful to me, right? Like, in determining when we approach the question from who has had the biggest impact on the success of this team, I will absolutely understand the nature of guy that's playing every day, that is table setter, that is, straw that stirs the drink, all of those things, right? Like, I'm probably approaching it more from who's been most outstanding, like who's done their job at the highest level of anyone, and that's why I think Bradish is my guy. But from the what they brought to the table has impacted the team the most. For a little while, for what it's worth, it would have been Mullins, right? Like, Mullins was gonna be the guy for a bit, and just a shame.
Hurt.
Yeah,
but he still had some incredibly. I mean, the exciting thing about whoever it is, right? All of these guys, and I put Mullins in it too. I am so excited to see however far we go, and I really don't have any idea, right? I mean, I really don't. I know you were talking yesterday about, do we sit? And we were texting back and forth about even if Atlanta runs away with it, like if they get knocked off for some reason, which could happen, it's not crazy. I mean, weird things happen. We still got to battle for the second best record, because
what if it's the Dodgers,
meaningful,
right?
With us and the Dodgers potentially duking that second position out. But I can't wait to see what some of these guys do in the postseason, because I think Gunnar and Adley for that matter, but again, Gunnar is just the new one, so it's easier to talk about this year. He is, I think to me, he's looking at this point to be one of the all-time great Orioles, along with Adley, right? And to think that he, in his first full season, is going to have playoffs to be able to display that talent, I'm giddy thinking about what this kid might do in the playoffs, right? The kind of heroics that this kid might show. I just can't wait. I can't wait to see it. I really want us to win the division. I think we need that rest. I'm curious to ask you, you were talking yesterday about Bautista, and that I forget who you had on, but he was saying, you don't obviously want to put him in the playoffs, even if he can. I know it's a long shot to come back as his first game back. So maybe if we clinch that three games in between, we could sort of put him out there and see if he's feeling it. But I don't know. Like, are you hearing anything else about that?
I'm really struggling with it. It was Steve Johnson, right, who was on, the former Oriole.
Right,
Steve
Johnson, right, yeah.
So what I've heard is, like, they really are inclined to sort of let him dictate this, right? Like, that they're taking their cues from him on this one and how he feels. And I think Steve's point, so and what Josh just brought up and what Steve and I were talking about yesterday, it all kind of meshes together. Steve's point was, hey, if you clinch, then the games maybe aren't as important this weekend against the Red Sox, and you could take one of them and say, maybe not the ninth inning, maybe not the highest leverage, but say the seventh inning, put Felix Bautista in Friday night in the seventh inning, and just see how he feels. And if he comes out of it and the delivery is strong and he is touching in the upper 90s and he comes out of it feeling fine, or as fine as he can given the circumstances, then maybe you let him pitch again on Sunday. And then if you've sort of crossed that threshold of, okay, he's pitched twice in 3 days and he came out of it no worse for wear, and he says, thumbs up, I'm ready to go, then perhaps you could say, all right, he's our closer again for the postseason, which, as we were discussing throughout the course of the show yesterday, now, Josh, your point is relevant, which is, well, those games aren't meaningless, even if the Braves have locked up the number 1 seed. To your point, trying to make sure you finish with a better record than the Dodgers is still relevant, because if the Dodgers beat the Braves in the NLCS, then you want to have, home field advantage for the World Series against the Dodgers, and that does matter. Now, a lot of people have pointed out the Orioles. I've gotten that from a lot of people. Hey, the Orioles have the best road record in baseball besides Atlanta. Like, I get it, but you still don't want to sign up for a potential Game 7 on the road in the World Series. You'd still rather have that in Baltimore. So I thought this through, and I kind of came away with the idea that Steve's point, even if the games matter, I do think is relevant, because I think right now and I don't know how you feel, but I think all of us are struggling with the idea that Yennier Cano is just the closer going into the postseason, because it's been so rough in September. And I know Steve said, hey, get him a little rest, and hopefully that settles him back down, and he's been overworked, and if you can get him back to that place he was really good in August. But if there is any chance that Felix Bautista can be Felix Bautista, my God, like, you're giving any opportunity for that. So I think his thought process, his strategy of trying to pitch Bautista this weekend makes a lot of sense. Like, purposely saying, no matter what, we want to put him in the 7th inning, even if you're winning by 10 runs, even if you're losing by 10 runs, we want Felix. It's almost like a spring training game at that point.
Yeah, just see what he's doing, right? See how he looks, see how he's feeling, how he feels, just out there with live action. I mean, my question to you is what happens, like, let's say we do clinch, first game of the Boston series or whatever. What is the thought process? And I don't think you talked about this with Steve yesterday, but forgive me if you did, because I was listening to most of it. Is in terms of resting our guys, is there some conversation about not wanting to rest them too much either? Because if we win the division, we got a whole week off, right? Yeah. And so how do you balance that? Are the guys just going to get warm-ups during the week? Like, what would we do, like, on that Saturday, Sunday? Like, what would happen in those final few games?
I think the truth is there's only so much. This is very different, obviously, than 3 or 4 years ago, where the rosters would expand to 40 guys in September.
Right.
There's only so much rest you can give these guys over the weekend, right? Like, you can only – You can't call up – you can't – Norfolk could be done by Thursday, but you can't just call up a bunch of guys and say, hey, you come play for the weekend, because the rosters only expand to 28 now. So I think they're going to have to play no matter what, even if there was a thought that you'd like to get. I think at this point it's who's banged up. I think, for example, Adley would almost certainly get a day off between Saturday or Sunday, and like a true day off, like a day where he's not even DHing. Because I think they would like to, he's been taxed more than any other player has been on this roster this season. So if they were to clinch by Friday, I would be surprised if he caught another game the rest of the season, although it is night game. Oh, man, they do have a night game Saturday and a day game Sunday, so they might not have a choice there but to have him catch one of those two games, because, I don't know if you can ask McCann to catch a day game after a night game either. But do you think, though, Glenn, do you think that, like, if that's the case, if we've got the division lined up, I think Hyde plays him Saturday, because he's got a whole week off. I mean, I think that's huge. I would be worried about a team this young with lacking playoff experience, falling into
getting a little cold during the week. I would want to make sure that, like, he's. And I guess I'm curious about that in terms of, like, what that means for our pitching staff.
It's something that they'll have to address. But I hear exactly what you're saying. They haven't been there before. They've never been in a situation where they've had to take a week off and then start playing baseball again.
Right.
So this is the eternal rest versus rust, sports radio conversation.
What's the general vibe, Glenn? What's the general vibe amongst just everyone in baseball, players, coaches, even fans, about this new change to the postseason rosters? Are people generally in favor of it? I haven't really been reading a lot. I'm curious. Like, that's a huge difference from 40 to 28. I mean, so, like, what's the thinking behind it, and how does, like, Brandon Hyde feel about that?
This was a big
thing. Happy with that?
Yeah, this was a big thing for Buck, and Buck and I have talked about it a lot over the years. And I think in general, like, there's a lot of teams that would tell you the teams that are bad right now hate it. Like, they would rather be using this opportunity to look at as many of their young players as they possibly can and get them some at-bats at the major league level. They all hate it. But the teams that are good, the argument is it's unfair, right? Like, you're playing a different sport in September than you were playing in April. All of a sudden in September, you're talking about AAA games, and so you're competing for a playoff spot, and the schedule works out that you're playing a good team, whereas the team that you're going up against, I'll give it. Who do the Rays play this week, Griffin? Who do they have? I know they have the
Toronto, right?
They have the Blue Jays this
Toronto.
coming weekend.
And then Boston tonight.
Boston tonight.
They have 2 against Boston.
Right.
So in this former scenario, you're the Orioles trying to lock up the division, and the Rays, since Boston's eliminated, are playing against a AAA team, right? Like, they're playing against AAA baseball players. And so Buck's argument on both sides, because he argued it when the Orioles were good and when the Orioles were bad, was it shouldn't be this way. Like, there's always going to be elements of it. There are teams that are going to put a guy on the injured list before the season is over because they're dealing with something and they get eliminated and it's not worth it, or they want to go ahead and let that guy have surgery or whatever it is. Those things happen. But to have a completely different roster take the field, I think Buck's point was always quite relevant, and it wasn't just Buck. Like, it was shared by a lot of people throughout baseball.
Sure.
It just always depends on what your circumstances are. Once you've clinched, the Braves would probably like to play some of those guys. But
yeah, exactly. No, I appreciate you explaining it more to me, because I honestly I wasn't even aware that it happened. I didn't follow it that closely, so it makes total sense. I mean, for us now, it's going to become a question of whether we go balanced or unbalanced, and it's pitching or right. It's like it's either like, I mean, who do you think is going to be the odd man out here?
Boy, it's funny because the obvious answer was Flaherty, and then he pitched out of the bullpen, and you said, well, maybe there's something there. So, okay, let's take this from 2 layers. We're chatting with Josh Charles here on GCR. I'll begin. The rotation at the moment, to me, Gibson's back in and Kramer's out. And that's a tough thing for me to say, but this goes back to I thought the subplot of September was everyone's competing. That going into September, Kyle Bradish was the only guy that was guaranteed a playoff rotation spot.
Right.
Everyone else had to compete. While Grayson wasn't great his last time out, Grayson's certainly been good enough that as long as his arm doesn't fall off, he's in the playoff rotation.
Wait, but you're saying odd man out, Glenn, about starting rotation, not about Kramer. You still see on the
team. I would still think that, but then we start to get to the point where, but how many long men are you going to be able to carry on a playoff roster?
Exactly,
right?
Exactly. That's the tricky part, right?
So
exactly.
You have Kramer, you have Flaherty, who again has already pitched in the role and pitched well. And I get it. None of us feel good about Jack Flaherty, but he did go out and prove that he could do it. And Cole Irvin, it's easy to say, okay, well, Cole Irvin's probably the guy that's left out in this, right? Like, you can only have so many long men on your roster, and you'd probably be inclined to say it's Kramer and it's Flaherty and Cole Irvin's the odd man out. And that's tough because Cole Irvin has been a good soldier this season and has done what you've asked for, and then you start thinking about, well, who's taking the roster spot that Cole Irvin would have? And if the answer is Fujinami, then I think that Orioles fans will be up in arms about that and say, why is Fujinami on this roster?
Is Bauman on your playoff roster?
Probably at this point not.
Yeah.
Like, and again,
he can't be on the wild card, right?
They could base it on
he was option.
Yeah, saying somebody is hurt.
Option.
But they could always say somebody else, put somebody else on IL if they wanted to that wasn't going to be on a certain roster in order to get him back. But yes, Bauman's not a guy I'm concerned about in this process. Of course, the other part of this is Batista on your division series roster, because if he is, then at that point there's no argument to me for Fujinami. You've got if Batista's on the roster and you're comfortable, Batista, Cano, Hall, Perez, you've got your back end Colomb, you've got your back end guys, right? Those are 5 back end guys combined with 4 starters. Now you've got room for a Cole Irvin to still make a playoff roster, perhaps, if you're leaving off Fujinami. Fujinami, to me, is I get it. I know our buddy Ryan Ripken is a huge Fujinami guy, and I see it. We see all the same things in terms of the talent. It's all there, but I don't know how anyone in the world would have any faith in putting Fujinami in a game that mattered at this point because of what the track record is. It's
Yeah,
tough, man.
I'm with you. I agree with you 100%. I just read what Ryan was saying about his, the differences between Houston and the other teams and what his record and what his stats are versus the other ones if you take the Houston games out. But I still think it just makes me too uneasy with him in a high pressure situation. You just don't know what you're going to get. What about on the offensive side? Like, who do you think is going to? I mean, Hurst, what's his name?
Heston Kjerstad. Yeah, that's the
that would
Kjerstad,
be, or
they're gonna want to keep.
McKenna.
Yeah, to your point, I think they're gonna want to keep McKenna. I think that this for the late inning
purposes.
defensive and base running, late inning
Right. situation,
down by a run, somebody takes a walk. They're gonna of course use Jorge Mateo, but there could be more. Like, remember the Kansas City Royals and how they did this in the mid-teens. They want to have one of those guys for the 9th inning and another one for the 10th inning. And Kjerstad, to me, is a little too redundant, particularly as long as Mountcastle's back, right? As long as Mountcastle is okay, and that's another huge wild card going into the playoffs, I think that Kjerstad's spot is the one that's sacrificed. And again, that'll hurt a lot of people that, of course, think Heston Kjerstad is going to be a big part of this moving forward. But I think for value of what they bring to the table and a specific role in the postseason, the Orioles are going to prioritize McKenna over Kjerstad.
And where is the status with Mountcastle right now? What are we hearing? Is he going to be able to make the playoffs?
He apparently stood in. He apparently stood in for a Batista bullpen session, and so there is thought that he is getting closer. But this one has almost been Harbaugh'ian, right? This one has been a bit more difficult because we all thought it was disastrous and season-ending, and then immediately the Orioles nah, he doesn't even have to go on the injured list. He's completely fine. And we were like, wow, our emotions are in a much different place than where they were last night, and then he didn't play for 5 days, and you said, uh-oh, and then they put him on the injured list. And they couldn't the goofy part about when they put him on the injured list is they can only date it back 3 days. So they actually had to put him on the injured list for longer than he would have been if they had just originally put him on the injured list.
Right.
So
can I say something wildly different? I was just thinking about this. Have you seen? I'm sure you guys have seen and talked about the clip of Rojas while he was being interviewed and makes the play to first.
Oh yeah, that was awesome. That was cool.
It was so cool.
Hang on,
right?
Griffin's pulling it up for people that haven't heard it. Oh, we don't. All right, when he has it, you got it.
What else are you using from Kike?
Yeah. So when Kike got traded, we kind of swing the same bat, and he got a bat from Marucci that I really like, and I've been using his bats and he gets here, and I don't think it's been a surprise that as soon as I start. Sorry guys, need to make this play real quick.
It's so great.
We're comfortable.
God, it's so great.
But I got to say something, seeing that and how baller and cool, of course, that is. I have noticed that even with the Orioles this year, when they've done that, or a few other teams, there needs to be a rule that if you're Kevin Brown, whoever you need to shut up.
Right. The ball
being pitched.
Right.
I just don't, as much as cool as it was, it's not a good practice to be having. The guys need to focus on the game. I'm all for making the experience cool, but shut up as the ball's being pitched. No questions. About your bat.
Okay. The argument is
Bananas.
Okay, wait. I'll play devil's advocate for a second. The cool part is hearing what it is that these guys are saying. When there is for example, when they're talking to an outfielder and you're talking to a right fielder and the ball is a fly ball to center field, and you get to hear what the conversation is like what they're yelling out in that moment, and then it feels like you're in the game. That part is cool. Your point can still be relevant, which is, all right, well, listen in on that, but don't stop asking questions.
No, I'm totally, I agree with you. If you're Aaron Hicks and you're mic'd up and the ball's going out to Mullins, then start talking to Hicks. He's not in on the play. Hear what he's saying. That's fine. It's all about, you don't know where the ball's going. It could go anywhere, right? And so as it's pitching, everybody should be focused on the same thing, right? And I think these guys get carried away, and I've seen it numerous times. They're talking to guys as the pitch is being thrown. And that was an example where the guy just obviously made a pretty great play, and it wasn't that crazy of a play, but still it was nice.
Yeah.
And made it look cool. But I don't know. I think that could easily go the other way too. It's such an instinctual thing. You got to react fast, and the last thing you need to be doing is talking and answering
worrying
questions.
about something else.
Makes me uncomfortable.
I understand what you're saying. It'll be interesting to see how they do that in the postseason because there's going to be more of that during every game, and guys are going to be mic'd up. I think it's better suited. I've always thought it was the better way to do it, and I know it was an awkward interview, but like the thing from the game last week where they had Amin and A.J. Pierzynski talking to Kyle Bradish, and that, like, Bradish is not the perfect person for this. As good as he is at pitching, he's not ever like the one. He is a bulldog, right? Like, he is not the friendly, over the top, I've got stories to tell you type. And they ran out of things to talk about with Kyle Bradish pretty quickly, and it was a really long inning, and it led to like this awkward, let's just start saying things and see if it can get you to like start talking about it. It was uncomfortable, but I still think that thought process is the better way to do these in-game interviews. Whoever's not pitching that night is the best way to do it. It still gets you great insight about the team. It's still a player 100%. Who's involved. Right. And then there's.
But I want to be clear though. I like them interviewing guys in the field. I think it's very cool, and I can understand like if you're a kid and you're watching, what a neat thing to be able to experience. I'm just saying there should be a collective rule that everybody's doing the interview. It's all fine. Ask them whatever you want. And we're all paying attention to the same thing as the people calling the game. So as the guy's pitching, we just quiet. And we know that that's the unspoken rule. Like, we'll talk up until that point, and then we'll let you play the game. I don't know. That, to me, it's – I get it. That guy makes an error. What happens now? They're going to stop doing that. All the managers are going to stop doing it.
We can't have this anymore, right? My guy's not completely focused on the game. It is a fair, relevant point, right? And I'd like to know
what Buck thinks of this, by the way. I'd love to know what
Buck thinks about it. You know exactly what Buck thinks about it. And that is the shame that like we're not in New York. Because if we did that, he would smile, he would laugh, he'd put on that wry smile, and it's exactly what he'd want to say, and he'd find some other way to say it. Oh God, I love that man so much. But by the way, I want to make it very, very clear. I have great affinity for Brandon Hyde. This is not a
huge affinity,
right?
I think Brandon. First of all, I mean, I know you and Stan touched on it, but Elias giving props to Duquette. And those scouts was so classy and so cool and so understood as well. Like any baseball knows, like some of those guys Duquette brought in, but he didn't have to do that. And what a great thing to do. And I think, I'll tell you, one of my son's coaches, like for his little baseball camp each week, the guy plays like, some minor league stuff. And he was saying, you guys better keep that manager. And I said, yeah. I said, I really like what he's doing. I said, what? I didn't know you. He goes, yeah. He goes, that's the guy that gives me hope. He's like, because I'm that guy. I'm going to be the guy that's going to manage. You know what I mean? That's where this guy sees his potential career going. And I go and I struggle and I make it and I bust it and I earn my stripes. And then what do they normally do? They get rid of that guy and they bring in Madden or Buck or whomever.
Yep.
And he's like, this is a guy that's like, huge for us that are there trying to make it in this business. Pay that guy a few million a year or whatever, and like get him to a long-term contract. And I was like, that's a really cool thing to hear, man. Because I do think he's done a great job, great job.
I think he has been selfless in all of this. I think he has been, like we would joke about the exact circumstances that you talk about. And he always said, I understand that might be my fate here. My fate might be that I'm Rick Renteria in Chicago. My fate might be that I'm, Bo Porter in Houston. But I'm going to do as good of a job as I possibly can in an impossible circumstance. And reading the thing that Bob Nightingale wrote at USA Today last week about him talking about the pain of the first few years was really powerful, right? And Brandon's a really likable guy. But the bigger part to me is how much it has worked and how much he has understood and had the pulse of this group of players. And
100%.
Whatever an X's and O's manager could bring to the table beyond, and it's so impossible for me to quantify. I say this all the time when people criticize John Harbaugh. Like, look, man, you're going to criticize every coach in football history, every single one of them. Not named. And by the way, how you feeling about Belichick post Brady, right? And I'm not trying to say that Bill Belichick isn't the greatest coach of all time. It's just, how we feeling about it.
Looking a little more mortal.
100%. So I don't know how much of a difference a truly great X's and O's manager could make. But my guess is it's at best negligible for the trade-off of having the pulse of your guys and feeding in to a culture of winning. And God, if Brandon Hyde hasn't done those things in ways that
I'm with you. And you can't put a number on also the bonds that have been created with, especially those guys that were there in the lean years. You know, when you're talking about Mullins and a Santander and a Mountcastle, right? I mean, like the bonds that are created, and to see that through. I mean, listen, he's going to win Manager of the Year, as he should. Hopefully they reward him with a longer-term contract or a renewal. I don't know where he's at on his contract, but my hope is he gets to see this through. You know, he to make that guy sit through and manage those teams. This is the least you could do. He's doing a great job, and I'm hoping that we keep as much of this together as we can, because I think that this would be as exciting as this year is, Glenn. Yeah, we know that what we're capable of. That this team, we've got more guys in the pipeline that are, you know, people are saying Jackson's better than all these guys.
Yep.
Right, and we've got other guys, and the fact that we have to do everything we can. This is me saying to the Baltimore Orioles to keep that team together.
Yeah.
Whatever you got to do, you got to keep the core of that team together. You know, I don't want to hear about Oakland, right? No. You got to keep the core of that team together. And if you can't, figure out a way to do it. Figure out a way to do it. I don't want to hear it. Just do it. Figure it out.
Brother,
that's going to be a travesty if we lose a couple of these core guys. A travesty.
From your lips to everyone's ears, my friend. Like, oh, God. But that can be a conversation we can revisit again when the season is over.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah, right?
I'm sorry. I get heated about that.
Josh, you know.
I'm telling you, you're going to watch a grown man weep if we get into this and start winning some games. I will be openly sobbing out in my 1970s Orioles satin jacket, and I'll be happily doing it, and I could care less. But that's the passion I have for this team, and I think we paid enough. We paid the price enough for all these years. You know what I mean? Keep this core together. We deserve that. We deserve that. Those of us who have stuck with them, we deserve that. Don't do that to us. No way.
Brother, I can't say it better than that, and I think it's the perfect place for us today. I think that's I don't think we can do better than that. Anything else you wanted to chime in on before we wrap up?
Just love you guys. Love listening to you. It's such a great way for me to stay connected. I just think you guys do such a great job. Great guests. You know I love my uncle. I love you guys, and I'll keep listening. Thanks for having me on, and hopefully we'll get to do it in person.
Let's make that happen,
during the playoffs or something.
Let's make that happen. I love you, brother.
Love.
Appreciate
Later,
you.
Griff. See you, Glenn. Bye-bye, guys.
It's the great Josh Charles with us here on GCR. Don't get no better than him. That passion, it's extraordinarily real. All right, we won't take a break. I know we're running late. If we got it, because he's got to get in before 11. Is that the deal?
No, I think he's okay. But we'll
Well, tell me, can we take a break or not?
Yes,
you're
right
the
now,
producer.
right
All right, well, let's take a break then. That's exactly what I wanted to do, and I'm so glad you brought it up. Today's show brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. October 28th is the date for the next hiring event. It's a trunk or treat community event. But also, you can go through the entire process, written test, agility test, the whole application, find out more about specialized units, get questions answered. If you've been thinking about making a change in your career path, find out more. Join BaltimoreCountyPD.com or call 410-887-4584. We'll preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday next with Joe Serpico. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Maryland 5-Star returns to iconic Fair Hill October 19th to 22nd, marking the next chapter in Maryland's equestrian tradition. Best described as the triathlon of horse eventing, you won't want to miss this thrilling sport. Enjoy a fall festival with local fare, retail vendors, and tons of family fun. Come for the event and stay for the experience in Cecil County, home to the Chesapeake Bay waterfront with vibrant small towns and accommodations to suit every desire. It's the place to be in October. Visit Maryland5star.us for tickets.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the eastern shore where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 26th at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
All electronic tolling is here to stay in Maryland, and DriveEasyMD.com helps you cruise a little easier. We're Maryland's tolling resource. Home to Easy Pass, pay-by-plate, and video tolling. It's never been easier to pay your way. DriveEasyMD.com. We'll keep you moving.
Make sure you're tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver-Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at... Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
All right, back in here on GCR. Thanks again to Josh. And now it's time for us to transition. We do it every Tuesday. We preview Waiver-Wire Wednesday. And Griffin, not only is Joe Serpico going to join us right now, but he could basically be like moving into your house moving forward, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. If your fantasy needs help, like maybe a lot of help, PressBox and Live Casino Hotel have the answer. One lucky winner will receive a private fantasy football consultation with PressBox fantasy football expert Joe Serpico, with ongoing help throughout the season, including advice on sits and starts, trades, and waiver wire pickups, plus a VIP game day experience at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Sports and Social with a reserved table and $200 in food and beverage credit. Yeah, it's to enter, go to PressBoxOnline.com/contest. That is PressBoxOnline.com/contest. Must be 21 or older to enter. Complete rules available at PressBoxOnline.com/contest.
So, Joe, when you move into the winner's house, exactly what do they need to provide for you? Like, do you need breakfast every morning, or can you just, like, handle pouring your own bowl of cereal?
They got a fridge full of beer. I'll be content.
We're good. We're good. That's all that Joe Serpico needs when you win this contest and he moves in. Now, that's awesome. That's a really cool prize. And on top of having Joe at your beck and call, on top of that, you have the fact that game day experience there, man. Like, we were down there for the opener this season. It is awesome. I mean, it is electric. And you get in those reclining seats, dude, there is not a whole lot better than hanging out at Live Casino and Hotel for game day. So that's a really cool prize. Again, PressBoxOnline.com/contests. Another really cool prize is having Devon Achan on your roster. The problem being, ain't none of us that had him started him this weekend. So let's talk about what Devon Achane is now moving forward, because I again, this is a true story. In our PressBox league that all three of us are in, Joe, he is sitting right there waiting for me at those 51 points on my bench. Am I playing him next week? And then let's talk about, whether or not, how much money you're putting in for him fab-wise. I assume he is an immediate waiver wire priority for anyone in fantasy football.
Yes, he is a must-add at this stage, considering what we saw this past week. I mean, anytime somebody scores 4 touchdowns, has 22 touches, he definitely jumps on the fantasy radar. I'm still, it was awesome to see him put up that kind of performance, but I'm still a little bit weary moving forward. I don't want to blow my entire fab budget on him, considering Raheem Mostert also had 4 touchdowns in this game here. And I also think once Jeff Wilson gets back, that he's going to get involved there. Now, is this a case where maybe a rookie takes over in the latter portion of the season, which we have seen happen many times the past couple of years? Very well could be. I'm just a little hesitant to, go all in on him, a la like we were talking about maybe last week with Jerome Ford, considering, there is still some other people in the mix there.
All right, so what's the cap? What would you spend in like $100 fab league?
I mean, again, it always does come down to, roster construction. But, let's say 10%, 15% of your fab, maybe. Again, if you are very desperate, you go as high as maybe 20. This is, again, the time of the year you want to be a little bit more aggressive with these kind of plays, because once we get to the second half of the season, you're kind of talking more about handcuffing your guys as opposed to trying to find these diamond in the rough that we can find in the early part of the year.
All right, so tell me, if I like in the league where I have him, are you telling me that next week would I play him over any of Brian Robinson, Travis Etienne, and Isaiah Pacheco?
Well, the latter maybe, because we kind of got to wait and see how he escaped from this Sunday. It sounds like he should be good to go moving forward, but no, I honestly I'm sticking with the first 3 you're going with, at least for
starters,
now. Yeah, just because what people are also maybe kind of forgetting, just because he went off like he did on Sunday, he's only has 3 touches before coming into this game on Sunday, and a lot of these touches also happen to have as the Dolphins were already extending this the gigantic lead out. So that's why I'm a little bit tempering my expectations for him, as opposed to, a couple guys we talked about in the past, like a Ford and Moss, who we know we're going to get heavy workloads moving forward.
All right, so let's cover a couple of things here before, because this is not waiver wire related, but Alvin Kamara comes back this week. Is everyone who took Alvin Kamara immediately playing him, or is it a maybe wait a week and make sure that he's all good?
Again, it comes down to roster construction, but I would say yes, just based on what we have seen from the Saints. They are banged up at the running back position. So if Kamara's coming back at an ideal time for them, and he's not necessarily kind of a guy that's, we're easing into a new system or anything like that. He's been there for God knows how long now. So if you have Kamara, yeah, I'm probably starting him right away in my flex spot. If you have better options like a Brian Robinson that you mentioned, I'm big on Brian Robinson the rest of the way. I'm probably playing him over a Kamara. But, if you're in a situation where you need the help, and let's face it, running backs this year have not been nice at all to anybody who's been drafted high. So if you've got somebody who's healthy right now, who is a pass catcher, and is going to get a ton of work, that's Alvin Kamara. So, yeah, more I'm talking myself into this right now. Yes, I'm starting him.
All right, now let's just to handle running back. Let's talk about Baltimore for a second, because I assume that if Gus Edwards comes out of this and clears concussion protocol, you're still starting Gus Edwards. I assume that if Justice Hill were to be back this week, you're at least considering him as a play. Is there? I can't imagine there's anybody that you're claiming on the waiver wire. I can't fathom there's anybody else that you'd be willing to play beyond that. Walk me through how you approach the entirety of Baltimore's running back situation.
Well, it's amazing. I'm in, obviously, a bunch of Baltimore-based leagues, and you see just about every Baltimore running back is rostered at least on one team, going all the way down to Keaton Mitchell, who's sitting on IR. It is kind of wild. But you're right. You're not making any moves for, let's say, Melvin Gordon, who took over for Gus Edwards, or Kenyon Drake, who only got a couple plays. It still looks like it's going to be Edwards and Hill moving forward. If Edwards is healthy, yes, I'm considering as a flex spot. It wasn't – honestly, I was expecting a little bit more out of him on Sunday considering the weather conditions, but, circumstances with the concussion there. And then Melvin Gordon, he had a couple plays where he popped, but his concern has always been that he's going to fumble. So I'm trying to avoid the situation if I can, to be brutally honest with you, just because there's so much uncertainty here. But if I have to play one, it would be Gus Edwards.
All right. Are there any other backs, running backs specifically, waiver wire wise, that are relevant this week?
Well, we talked about Zach Moss last week. He's somebody I can just bring back up just because he still is available in about 20% of leagues. He was the only one that kind of caught my eye. Otherwise, again, kind of like what I said before, it was a very, very low-scoring week for anybody. I mean, if you don't have Christian McCaffrey or one of the two Dolphins running backs this week, it was a pretty lousy week for running backs. So Zach Moss being the one that, if he's somehow still out there, get him on your roster some way, just because we know it's his job, and hopefully JT doesn't come back, kind of like we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Does Matt Breida have any value as long as Saquon stays out, I guess, but does he have any value even in this Giants offense?
If you're super desperate. He does nothing that impresses me. I think I said that to us on here last week. He's just one of those guys that looks like when he hits the hole, he's tackled up for 3 yards, and that's that. He does nothing to excite you. Yeah, maybe he runs into a touchdown like he did last week. I believe he finished with 3 carries for either 4 yards, 14 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. Yeah, that's what you're basically hoping for. He's one of those guys you're hoping falls into the end zone. So I'm trying to avoid those kind of players. I'd rather have players with upside that we're going to be talking about now.
All right, he is Joe Serpico, PressBox fantasy football analyst. He is with us, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. Joe, let's move to wide receiver. Big story this week, obviously Mike Williams done. So I feel like there's an inclination for folks to grab not only Palmer, but also maybe Quentin Johnston. Are those waiver wire moves? Are those Thursday moves? Where are you at with those two Chargers wide receivers?
Both of them for me they're more of wait after your waiver period kind of goes. Yes, they're going to be tied to Justin Herbert. That is, a very high octane offense. But we even saw before Mike Williams went down, Keenan Allen was getting peppered with targets. He was over 100 yards and over 10 targets in the first half, and then that just continued going into the second half. And then you saw the touchdown pass he threw. So they're going to find a bunch of ways to get Keenan Allen the ball. Now, I do think the one that gets the most boost is actually probably Quentin Johnston, just because he honestly wasn't playing a whole lot at all. It was Josh Palmer that was getting the looks in the 3 wide receiver set. So I do think his fantasy value boosts the most, but neither one of those guys are somebody I'm rushing to put some fab money on. Those guys I'm looking for after the period to see if I can get on my roster for free.
What about, are we back to being comfortable with Adam Thielen, or should we remind ourselves this is still the Carolina offense and maybe we don't race or use fab money that way?
Yeah, another guy kind of in the same boat. You like the target share that you've seen the past couple weeks, but also at the same time, we saw Andy Dalton throw more passes on Sunday than he has in his entire career, and he's been in the league, I feel like, for 20-some years now. So that's not encouraging when you consider what the game plan might be moving forward. We have talked about the past couple of weeks these bad teams. They're good for airing it out, so which could be good for fantasy purposes. But Thielen, again, he kind of reminds me he gets a lot of looks in this offense because somebody there has got to catch a lot of passes. But he's slow and old, kind of like Matt Breida, and you're really hoping that most of the time that he catches touchdowns for you. So he's not somebody I'm really spending any fab money on. I probably have him down in the 40s and 50s in my rankings this week. But I'm not wasting, precious money on something like that when we're trying to save her for maybe more crucial running backs moving forward.
So is there no wide receiver that you would spend any, or that you would even put in a waiver claim for at this point?
Tank Dell. We talked about
If
him a
he's
little
still
bit last
available,
week.
yeah.
I think what we saw from him this week now kind of verifies that, one, he's electric. He's one of those boomer bust kind of players. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying with Thielen. You know, there's more bust than boom with him and Abrita, as opposed to Tank Dell as somebody who I could see, you know, having a game like we saw on Sunday, and you can see that more regularly because he has that potential to take it to the house. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to forget. You get points for guys that score on special teams too, and he's one of those guys that, you know, contributes there as well. So if he pops one for a touchdown one of these days, you're going to be happy about that.
There is that. There's no doubt about it. Let's continue shifting positions. We'll go to tight end next, where I feel like if Sam Laporta is available in your league, you're probably in tight end hell if you don't have, you know, Kelsey end of list. And so I would feel like Sam Laporta is probably someone that's worth at least a waiver claim, if not spending a little bit of fab on.
Yeah, a lot of rookies we're talking about this week. But, yeah, absolutely. He's kind of shown that he is going to be a vital part of the Lions' offense. And we know that offense does like to air it out a little bit more than some other teams around the league. And he's the first tight end in league history to have 5 receptions in 3 games, I think was the stat I heard. So, you know, that kind of tells you just how involved he's been. Drawing up plays for him, he was evident on that 45-yard touchdown on Sunday. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's getting 5 catches a game at tight end, we're not seeing a whole lot of them. Let's face it. We could talk about this every week. There's going to be a new tight end that pops up on the radar that we're kind of hoping to fill that, let's say, 10 through 14 holes down there in the rankings, just because, kind of like running backs, there's just a whole lot of uncertainty there. But, yeah, Laporta is definitely a guy I'm trying to put some fab on, especially if I'm in dire. Let's say, you know, I mentioned last week, if you're still somehow holding on to Kyle Pitts, hoping for a miracle, go get yourself Sam Laporta. You're going to be much happier with that.
I think he's if he's coming on, it could be very special moving forward. And then, you know, the guys that I saw on your list at PressBoxOnline.com that were interesting to me are the quarterbacks because, like, I'll give you an example. I'm very frustrated with the league where my quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence and Matt Stafford. And then I'm even more frustrated in the league where my quarterbacks are Justin Fields and Matt Stafford. But am I really counting on, for example, C.J. Stroud? Like, if I were to put a claim in for him, am I definitively playing C.J. Stroud over either of those guys?
It's hard to we talked about Trevor last week. It's hard to bench him just because we saw Trevor get off to Trevor Lawrence get off to a slow start last year as well. So that's kind of why, you know, I still have some ray of hope on him kind of turning the corner. And once he does, boom, he's going to be one of those guys that you're going to want to start every week. Stafford, yes, he's a guy that at this stage of his career, you know, we've kind of seen it. A couple of weeks ago, he was electric. This week, you're like, you know, is this a guy that's been in the league for as long as he has been? And I apologize. Who was the other quarterback did you mention for me?
Fields, yeah.
Oh, Fields.
Yeah, thank you. I said it myself.
Well, I think that's the biggest enigma in all of fantasy football right now. You know, what do you do with him? Everybody thought he was a top 5, you know, quarterback going into the year, considered what we saw last year. The rushing yards, we expected to be something the same. And then you add DJ Moore. You know, you bring in Chase Claypool, kind of came on late last year. Maybe he can make an impact for you this year. And it's just been a total dud. So am I playing a CJ at this stage? Jordan Love, I would say yes. I'm going to go with Jordan Love. Wasn't the best fantasy performance this weekend, but I think what he proved to us this weekend against a very good Saints defense is that kid's a winner. I think the Packers found their guy for a long time, and I think moving forward, once he gets all his weapons back, because he's also been playing without Aaron Jones and Christian Watson and a banged-up David Bakhtiari. So I think Love, absolutely. Stroud, I like what I've seen. You know, he's only the 3rd player to ever have over 900 yards in 3 games. But I'm still a little bit hesitant to trust.
By the way,
The Texans, I know I just how much I mentioned Tank Dell, but, Tank Dell could be the reason why, C.J. Stroud has good days. He takes these passes deep to the house there and, puts up those big numbers for him. So if I had to pick in that little pecking order that you mentioned there, let's say Lawrence. Oh, man. Lawrence, what do I do with Fields? The Fields one's really the toughest one. But then I'm going Love. I probably should have Love, then
Stafford over Stroud.
Then Stroud. Yeah, I still think I'm waiting seeing on Stroud.
Of course, my Field Stafford league is this league where Love isn't available. So ain't no love to be found in our PressBox.
That's our PressBox league. Yeah. I am the Love.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, all I need is love, and you're taking all of it, you son of a bitch. But I might be not that far away from taking a play at C.J. Stroud. I might be.
I might have to be with you because I got Joe Burrow and Daniel Jones, Joe. So is it time for me do I keep holding out hope with Joe Burrow and Danny Dimes, or do I start looking at the waiver wire as well?
I was actually encouraged by what I saw with Burrow last night for somebody that almost didn't play. To do what he did with the Bengals last night and make sure that Jamar Chase got involved, I was actually kind of impressed with that. So if he can put those kind of numbers up with one bad leg, I kind of like what I see from him moving forward. Daniel Jones, he's somebody you kind of got to hang on to because he'll have those boomer bust games. When he gets involved as a rusher, he's very good in fantasy. There just seems to be games where he just forgets that he's capable of doing that, and those are the games we're seeing him try to throw it too much, and those are the stinkers that he puts up.
All right, Joe Serpico, you can see his waiver wire and all of his content throughout the week at PressBoxOnline.com. At Joe Serp on Twitter is how you follow him. And again, get to PressBoxOnline.com/contest so you can win not only that consultation, but year-long fantasy consulting from Joe Serpico and that $200 game day package at Live Casino and Hotel. That is awesome. Joe, always appreciate you, man. Thank you for spending a couple of minutes with us this morning. We'll talk to you again next week.
Take care, guys.
It's Joe Serpico, our PressBox Fantasy Football analyst, checking in with us here on GCR. Griffin, what else is going on? Oh, you can go ahead and say goodbye to Joe. That's fine. My apologies. It's always, we want to have good bedside manner with guests. Want to thank them and show appreciation. Now, Griffin, what else is going on in the world of Live Casino and Hotel since they just so kindly brought us Joe Serpico?
They also were bringing you the second chance drawing all season. If luck was not on your side in a recent bets at the FanDuel Sportsbook at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland, get ready to turn those losses into winning opportunities with the second chance to win promotion between now and January 4th, 2024, basically all of football season. All Live Casino and Hotel Maryland Rewards members will be able to enter their losing slips into the second chance to win drum, and 2 nights a week, 20 different winners will be chosen. Prizes range from Live Casino and Hotel Maryland apparel, sports and social, ultimate happy hour prizes, and cash and free play prizes as well, worth up to $500. Drawing is going to be held every Thursday and Monday. That's 2 different times a week. At Arundel Mills, must be 21. Please play responsibly. For help, visit mdgamblinghelp.org or call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is a weird one. Chris said, Glenn, were you planning on talking about Usher?
Glenn did tell me, make sure you don't schedule anything.
No, I wasn't planning. I in the past, I always tried to do a little bit more with it. We did a draft one year where we had like the entire cast all pay into a pot to draft who would play the Super Bowl halftime show that year, and I won because it was the Maroon 5 year. And I said, that is just perfectly milquetoast. That is exactly like the non-threatening, middle-of-the-road.
Should have been Taylor Swift. Has Taylor Swift done it?
She's never done halftime.
Yeah. Should have been Taylor. This would be a good year for her.
Okay, well, I mean, she might have had a vested interest.
Yeah.
So,
I know.
With all due respect, I've no interest in a Taylor Swift halftime show. That came up last year when everybody was talking about Taylor Swift, and I was like, now, as it turns out, Rihanna's halftime show was a dud to me it's unfortunate. Like, I think her pregnancy limited the amount of energy she could put into the show, and I think given the circumstances, she did a whale of a job. But I just didn't think. I think in the attempt to force feed like 15 songs into the halftime show, she didn't create any moments that stood out. It was just like here's a snippet and then here's another snippet. And I think the halftime show is always better when you can celebrate like iconic songs that people love and play them out. That's why Prince's halftime show was one of the many reasons why Prince's halftime show will never be topped. Well, there will never be anything that touches it. Usher, for me, is a tremendous choice. All in. I love Usher. Love Usher. And so many Usher songs stand out for me, but it's the perfect thing, right? Like, Usher broke literally when I was in high school. So his career has spanned my young adult into adult life. I love Usher. I get there's the Vegas fit because he's been performing in Vegas, so and everybody that's gone out to that show, like I know Rita was obsessing about it. Everyone that's gone out to that show has told me it's incredible, and that doesn't surprise me because Usher is great. Like, because his songs are great. Now, can he recreate like an end of show moment that stays with us forever by picking one particular song that everybody's waiting for? I don't know, right? Like, that's kind of the cool part about Usher is that it's not really like there's one song that stands out in some particular way. Like, when you think about Usher's catalog, whether it's Confessions or even going back as far as My Way or Let It Burn, or I don't know that any single one of them is the one that you build up to and say we're all waiting for. But as a performer, he's phenomenal. And I think his songs are, I guess Yeah is his most iconic song, but it's not like a ballad, so you wouldn't be building up to it. I don't know. Maybe it would be what you would. I would think that'd be what you would start the show with.
What's gonna be better, his halftime performance or Kim K's? She's clearly got a future in acting.
Oh, after that, yeah, I did not. I did not watch that.
You didn't
Griffin.
watch.
I did not.
You didn't watch Apple Music's.
It didn't do anything for me. Didn't do
announcements?
Thing. That is not my area. Do you know how many times, by the way, like the most exciting part of the night when you would go to the piano bar when I was a kid, and you would get to the part where they bring up like the fat white like security guy and let him do the rap from Yeah by Usher was like the highlight of the night. So much so, this is a true story. So when I was in Arizona, there was this band called Obadiah Parker. And they, out of nowhere, this is in 2006, he had gone to a coffee shop and done an acoustic version of Hey Ya by Outkast.
Wow.
And it started trending a little bit. This is before like Twitter and before, but like the YouTube video.
Everybody saw it.
Before everything was on YouTube. This is still in the very infancy of YouTube. Became wildly popular, and it ended up accidentally becoming like a top 10 single in the country. This coffee shop acoustic version of Hey Ya. And this guy, Matt, nicest guy in the world, who was the singer of Obadiah Parker, like was over. He had no idea what to do with it. Like, he was just a guy who, they could make a movie about this dude, who woke up with this smash hit, and it was just a cover, right? Like, so we had invited him in studio, and
Obadiah.
Well, his name was Matt, but the band was called Obadiah Parker,
gotcha.
right? We invited him in studio, and it was wild talking about it. He's like, dude, I don't know what to do about this. Like, I'm panicked. Like, he wasn't being offered like huge record deals.
I guess I can't play it.
You could give like a taste of it. I think we get allowed to. It's beautiful. Wow. Like, it's beautiful. It's a completely different concept of the song. And truth be told, after you heard it, you realize, like, hey, the lyrics to Hey Ya are not as quite as celebratory as the song presents. Hey Ya, which I believe to be maybe the best song of the 21st century. I didn't think about that a little bit more,
definitely.
but I felt it was the best song of the first decade of the 21st century.
That, I guess.
I would still think I would argue it's the best song of the 21st century. And I don't know where it charted. It charted. It got
or the cover.
The cover.
Oh wow.
The cover. I don't know where it charted. But like legitimately, it was everywhere. Like, it was on. I swear to God, he was an answer to a Jeopardy question. So we bring him in, and then that same night that he's in studio, we're doing a segment about how much we love going to the piano bar, right? Like, we're talking about it on the show. And so somehow the two things forge into, we want to do an Obadiah Parker karaoke night where all of the cast members have to compete karaoke style the following week with Obadiah Parker live playing the songs in the background. Because I was a man who had gone to the piano bar so frequently, I knew the thing to do was to do "Yeah" by Usher, right? Like, because when fat white guy starts belting out, "Watch out, my outfits," everybody loses their mind, right? Like, it's just an electric moment when you do that, the ludicrous part. And so, yeah, I did that. And that part was electric.
Wow.
The rest of the song,
okay.
I know. Maybe I'm not going to have a future in music.
So what you're saying is the only thing
But
okay.
I was voted the winner.
Oh, well done. Congrats.
Of Big O and Duke's karaoke night with Obadiah Parker.
So the only thing that could top an Usher halftime would be Obadiah Parker.
Oh, it'd be so cool if if Usher found him and brought him out. I probably still have his number somewhere. Great guy. Do we have to go right to it?
Yeah.
I thought it was 11:20. My fault. We're having a morning here on GCR. Today's show is also brought to you by, this one's brought to you by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. All right. But I'm down with Usher. I think it's cool. I really do. But I don't know how I have no idea how Griffin feels. I don't know how much Usher means to Griffin. To me, at 40, he means a lot. Like, I'm stoked.
I guess I'm pretty indifferent at this
That's
point.
probably what I've expected for a 20-year-old.
I'm not mad.
Well, I mean, that's not. If you're mad, then get out. The Usher's awesome. Like, get out. But I get it. Like, it doesn't resonate. I don't think the hip hop one probably could resonate with you the same way that it resonated with somebody my age from a couple years ago.
Yeah.
The Snoop,
correct.
Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige.
I mean,
like,
it was good. It was
to me,
enjoyable.
that's the second greatest halftime show of all time.
Behind Prince.
And we almost can't. Like, Prince did something that wasn't even a halftime show. It was a cultural touchstone. It was an iconic moment in American history. And then there were a lot of halftime shows otherwise. And of those, I actually believe that the hip-hop one is the best. The ones that aren't literally cultural touchstone moments. Of all of the rest of them, I think the hip-hop one was the best of that group. I actually think that U2's was better than people. But U2 literally did 2 songs. Like, that's why Rihanna doing 15 songs was wild. U2 did halftime after 9/11, and they did 2 songs. Like, 2. Just because they wanted to be an emotional, moment. And it really was. All right. Joining us now, the Orioles get back to action tonight. Also, the Norfolk Tides play for a AAA championship this week as well. Let's talk about the Orioles with our buddy Jon Meoli from the Baltimore Banner, who's back with us now here on GCR. John, it's Glenn. How you feeling about Usher for a halftime show, pal?
Don't have a ton of thoughts about it. I don't mind Usher, though. I was thinking about what Usher songs I like.
I mean, okay, hang on. I got to do this math now because I know you're closer to my age, but I still think, am I a couple years older than you are?
I'm 34, so
I
have a lot of Usher's prime. It matches up to my prime, for lack of a better word.
I get that.
I was thinking about the Same Girl remix, but I don't think R. Kelly is allowed to do that
I don't think
anymore.
that's going to happen. No, I don't think that there's going to be that moment. I think
but Confessions is great.
It's great.
Well, yeah, Usher's great. It's
Dude,
fun.
Like what you make me wanna meant to me when I was at Perry Hall High School and was trying to talk to girls. I mean, that song is a jam and a half. And I do think that is his most iconic song. But I don't know, man. I'm all in. I'm all in on Usher. I dig it. I think it's a good idea.
I mean, we're going in a different direction here, but do you remember Virgin Free Fest when they had it 15 years ago?
Hell
here?
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I went to that. I was out at Ludacris's performance, and I couldn't name 3 songs that are actually by Ludacris, but he performed for a half an hour, and I knew everything he was doing.
Correct, he did.
It's just on the radio, and that's what Usher's gonna be.
Yep.
It's not like I'm gonna be able to pick out the songs I like on an Usher playlist, but I will hear them oh, awesome, let's go. That's what's gonna happen.
I am weirdly a Ludacris truther. I believe he had one of the best careers of any artist of the 21st century, and he's being treated like Vanilla Ice. I have this weird obsession with talking to people about Ludacris and saying, dude, every song he put out was a 13, and we all loved every single one of them, and somehow we treat him like he's a nostalgia act, and he's MC Hammer for whatever reason. Like, Ludacris deserved to be treated closer to Jay. I'm not trying to say he's Jay-Z, but he deserved to be treated closer to that than he ever was. Ludacris kicked ass.
And he's a fantastic contributor to my favorite film franchise.
Are you really a Fast
so.
and the Furious guy? I never knew that about you, Jon Meoli. I am not, but Mrs. Clark is, and so I have had to watch quite a few of those over the years. But that is a conversation that we can continue another day. In the meantime, the Orioles are 3 games or 3 whatevers away from clinching the American League East. John, a lot of the conversation that we've been having of late has been about postseason rotation and roster. And I feel like there's all of a sudden this like swing in emotions where at the moment, if the Orioles had to write out a postseason rotation, I think most fans would prefer that it was Kyle Gibson back in the rotation over Dean Kramer. What would the rotation look like to you if you were writing it out?
You know, I kind of explored this with the Banner yesterday. I think that Kyle Gibson is like a really good guy to have in reserve. Like, you know, game 1, 2, 3, like Dean Kramer's going to sit in the bullpen and Kyle Gibson's going to sit in the bullpen and Jack Flaherty we know is going to sit in the bullpen. And like, I feel like there's just going to be more occasion to bring in like a Kramer in an earlier game. So like Kyle Gibson, even if he's, you know, even if you wanted to say he's going to be the game 4 starter if they need one on merits, he's probably going to be the game 4 starter also because like there's not going to be an occasion to use him. You know, it's not like he's going to go out there and like blow guys away. Like, I think that he's, you know, the way he's pitching and the way he pitches in general is like very valuable. Mm-hmm. But I think that his stuff is not necessarily like the kind you're like, oh, I need this in the 6th inning of a playoff game. So that will make him available as the 4th starter because there's going to be no occasion to use him before that, if that makes sense.
It sounds like what you're saying is you don't announce a 4th starter, right? Like you announce the 3 starters, and then the 4th starter is whoever's available. And to your point, the more likely guy is going to end up being Gibson, and so he'll be the 4th starter because of it.
Correct. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if they also didn't announce like Jon Meoli as the game 3 starter. And he's. I mean, you have to assume, no matter, you know, hopefully for their sake they win the division because this team needs a nice long rest. But everyone's going to be available, so I think that you say Bradish and Rodriguez 1 and 2, and everyone else is available, and it probably shakes out that they stay away from Jon Meoli for game 3 and Cal Gibson's the freshest for game 4.
So as we start looking at that, the other end of talking about putting the roster together is there's just giant unknown when it comes to Felix Bautista, who I still can't believe we're having this conversation, but we kind of have to have the conversation. And, you know, Steve Johnson and I were talking about it yesterday, and he's like, well, I think that if you want to have him pitch in the playoffs, you got to have him at a place where you could put him in for an inning this weekend after you've clinched and just see where he is and how he holds up from it. And I think that makes sense to me, but I don't even know how to talk about it because I feel like if it's not Felix Bautista, I still think that we don't even really know exactly who the closer is for the Orioles or even if they have a closer going into the postseason.
Yeah, I think it was pretty instructive how they handled some of those crazy late inning situations with like Tampa that last weekend they were home, and then that early Houston. Like they're literally going to just be going like out to out, matchup to matchup, and that's going to feel crazy in the playoffs. It's going to be, you know, it's going to make what is already a very tense morning experience even more tense. But right. I think they're honestly in the same boat. I think that, you know, when Felix Bautista went down, Brandon Hyde said it's going to be a lot more matchups than you would see if they had an established closer. That didn't really play out that much early in the time without Bautista, but it has more recently. And I think that comes down to, you know, guys just, you know, wearing out and who's available and who's not. So I think it's going to be more, I think it'll probably be more matchup based. And I think there's also going to be, you know, there's going to be a game in the playoffs where somebody who you do not expect to pitch the 9th inning pitches the 9th inning and pitches well. And that just might click. You know, you might end up needing to have DL Hall pitch the 9th in a big spot in a safe situation. And he might do it. And you might just say, okay, that's what you're doing. Who knows? Jack Flaherty could do that. Dean Kramer, Tyler Wells. I think that the uncertainty on that front probably causes a lot of heartburn, but like there's a lot of upside there too, and I think that's probably the saving grace is this team's going into October.
So let me write out this group, right, of 13 pitchers. So the 4 guys that we're assuming are starters would then be Means, Grayson, Bradish, and Gibson, right? Then you throw Flaherty, Irvin, Hall, Kramer, Coulomb, Wells, Cano, Webb, and is Fujinami on the postseason roster? Or is that completely dependent upon whether or not Felix Bautista is available at that point? I feel like that becomes the biggest wild card as far as making a roster, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, and I think when you're talking about the 13th pitcher, I don't want to denigrate anyone, and I wouldn't denigrate anyone, but that guy is probably going to be pitching in low leverage, no leverage.
Oh, hang on a second. I didn't have Perez. I didn't have Perez on this list, so I screwed something up. I wrote Hall down twice, so I apologize for that.
Be nice to have him twice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
I was counting along on my hands with you, and then I ran out of fingers. No.
It's an awkward. It was weird when you started taking your shoes off. Everybody was like, "What are you doing, dude?" Yeah.
So I think that probably just for I think that Fujinami is a multi-inning, this game's washed, let's get to tomorrow kind of guy is fine. I don't know that the Orioles would want to put him in any other situation than that, but I think that, you acquired him, it's probably a worse look to leave him off the postseason roster, even if it was kind of a punt at the time.
But then is he more valuable than Webb? Is he more valuable than Cole Irvin, for example? Somebody's got to be off. 2 somebodies have to be off if it's Bautista. I'm at the point now where if it's Bautista, there's no way it can be Fujinami. But is that role for Fujinami more valuable than an Irvin or a Webb?
I'm not sure. I think there's more upside with the Fujinami. I think an Irvin type might feel a little more redundant if you're going to have essentially Flaherty. 3 guys who kind of are starters in the bullpen, and then it just kind of comes down to matchups. But I just think it would be a tough look to leave Fujinami off, even if it's kind of a tough look to it'd be like the baseball roster equivalent of socially promoting someone in school.
I understand what you're saying though. You're gonna get crucified over this was your acquisition, but at the same time, I just don't know how anyone can have any faith in Fujinami in the playoffs at this moment. I get that no one has actually pitched well out of the bullpen of late, other than maybe Hall. I get that that's where we are, but it's not just the last 2 weeks that they've been dealing with this with Fujinami. I feel like it's been for 2 months that this is what they've been dealing with the Fujinami, and I don't know how I don't know what the circumstances would be where you would feel good about turning to Fujinami in a playoff spot at this point.
Yeah, and this is not my point. I was just scrolling through Twitter, and Ryan Ripken pointed out that Fujinami has basically had 3 just atrocious outings against the Astros and been pretty fine otherwise for the Orioles since the Orioles acquired him. So I guess if you're asking for a situation where you can put him in, it would be not against the Astros. Right, but again, it's such a tough ask to say, in the same way that if we're projecting forward, the idea of Bautista pitching in a playoff game with his elbow in the condition that the Orioles told us it's in is makes me wildly uncomfortable for a lot of reasons. You're not going to be very comfortable putting Fujinami in a lot of situations.
Oh man, I know Ryan loves Fujinami. That's his guy. That's a tough conversation for me to have. And again, as I look over the game, I guess I blanked on this. There was a good stretch. But it was the Diamondbacks were the only good team that he faced in there. It was the Angels, the Red Sox, the Cardinals that he performed well against, and against all good teams for the most part. All right, I don't want to go too deep into this. I don't want to go too deep, and this is a conversation that we don't need to have today. Jon Meoli is with us from the Baltimore Banner as we're talking about the Orioles. John, have you put in your most valuable Oriole vote yet?
No, I have not. That's due soon, huh?
I would assume so.
Yeah, it's got to be due soon.
Do you have a sense for where
I
you're
don't
going?
think I missed the deadline, but
no, I think I heard that they were going to extend it because they don't unlike some years where you have to announce it before the season's over. The season's not ending this weekend, so they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, there are going to be home games at some point after Sunday. I haven't dug deep into it, your gut tells you that Gunnar Henderson, by a lot of metrics, is the most valuable. That discounts Adley Rutschman, who I think has more of a burden of expectations, if you want to say that. He basically had like 1 week where he wasn't producing at the level everyone's expecting him to in September, and it was a huge deal. And now he is again. And you're talking about very similar offensive performances. You're talking about similar demanding defensive loads. So I think he's going to be in the conversation for me. I think Kyle Bradish needs to be, based on what he's done in the rotation the entire year. I think that, just sheerly on value, that even though his season ostensibly ended 6 weeks or so before everyone else did, like Felix Bautista needs to be in that conversation too. But there have been years where there's an obvious option because there's not a lot of good options. I don't think this is going to be that kind of year for me.
I'm going to make, for PressBox, I'm going to make the argument for Bradish. I think Bradish is, I really started looking into more of the numbers, and like, this is the best pitching season that we've seen in Baltimore in over 30 years. Like, Mike Messina's 92 was the last time we saw a pitching season like this. And it's the eternal, like, how much do you value someone versus someone who plays every day? And we can have that conversation for forever. But I still somehow think it's being missed on a national scale, even to some extent on a local scale, how truly absurd the season is that Kyle Bradish has put together this year. Like, we keep talking about, Grayson Rodriguez is showing you that he's the ace. Like, they have an ace. Like, that's what this guy has been. The numbers are bonkers for what Kyle Bradish has done this year.
Yeah, and I think back to there was like a long history, like not long history. I think back to like there were years where like Lucas Giolito was like statistical, or stretches where he was like the worst starter in all of baseball, and he came back and he became really good. And the same with Corbin Burns, and like I feel like Bradish's start to his career just didn't. I feel like he's like still recovering from that, and from a perception standpoint. But he came back in July of last year, and he's probably got an ERA that's in the mid-3s since then. It's not like dominating, overpowering stuff, but he can dominate with it. It's really fascinating. He was acquired in the Dylan Bundy trade. We don't need to go through it all, but from an early time in the organization, hearing people talk at Altside, I would talk to hitters and coaches that were there, for stories, and I'd ask them who looks good, and they were like, this Bradish guy, like this is it. The Orioles were, this is what the Orioles expected from him. So if I were them, I would be pumping his candidacy for more than just MVL. And they would be well within their right to do so.
Look, I get it. Garrett Cole is the presumed Cy Young Award winner, and his numbers definitely are better. Obviously not for as good of a team, and so, you take that into it. But yes, to your point, like there is an argument in there. There's a Cy Young argument that is just not being made whatsoever. And I don't have the answers to that, and we will see how it moves. Because to your point, like I'm not trying to argue that his stuff proves that Kyle Bradish can be this guy for 10 years, but Jesus, man, he has been unbelievable this season. All right, last one for you. I'll go back to the roster. If it came down to Kjerstad or McKenna, I presume that McKenna is on the playoff roster and not Kjerstad?
Probably. I think that Brandon Hyde just values what he does so much. I think that by virtue of him playing Kjerstad as much as he has, you can tell he clearly values what he can do too, which is, drive a ball over the fence in any direction.
Yeah.
We've talked about probably on this show, and I've talked about a lot that, the Orioles tell you what they think of guys based on what they do when they come up, and Heston Kjerstad's getting to play a lot, and I think that bodes well for him. But that seems like a luxury item, especially for a team that loves to make those defensive changes, and is going to be playing, you would assume, a majority of their games in Camden Yards, where you're going to need to be covering a lot of ground in left field, and you probably want Ryan McKenna able to do that in a pinch during a game in a way that you'd be able, if it's like August, you'd say, if something happens to Hayes or Mullins, we could just call somebody up tomorrow. In the playoffs, you need to have somebody who can play, a high quality center fielder or a big left field in that game, and I think McKenna's there for that.
I think that's the case. So I did have somebody who reached out when we were talking about it earlier and brought up, like, is there any chance it's Westberg? And I said, I just think his flexibility makes him too valuable for the team. Like, I feel like Westberg and Arias, neither of whom has been overwhelming. And Arias in particular, it's disappointing because he's a guy that I thought was having a much better season than he is. But I just think they're valuable. Their flexibility, you can't leave either of those guys off the playoff roster.
Yeah, there's going to be a surprise. I think on like the bench, and I also think that it will probably be temporary because the next series will require something different, and if they have another series, but you know, I think it's really splitting hairs, and you're gonna, for better or worse, the Orioles tell you what they think of guys and what they value, and I think this is going to be a good opportunity to find that out in a very high stakes environment.
Jon Meoli, what can I plug for you, my friend?
Oh gosh, just writing away at the Baltimore Banner. We had another update on Jackson Holiday today. Pretty fascinating, obviously, what he's been doing down in Norfolk. Have some more Tides-related stuff this week, I think, and just writing the heck out of this season. Great team over there with Andy Costa and Danielle Allentuck, Kyle Goon, and Paul Mancano, and we're having a great time, and we're rolling through hopefully deep into October. For the clicks purposes,
No doubt, man. No doubt. For everybody, the business is booming when these types of things happen. At Jon Meoli, of course, is how you follow him on the website formerly known as Twitter. Always appreciate you, brother. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
All right. Have a good one. Thanks, man.
Jon Meoli with us here on GCR, talking Orioles. Boy, this has been a day. Today's show brought to you by Superbook. Use the code GlennClark23 when you sign up at Superbook.com or using the Superbook app. And when you do, you'll get a same-day first bet match, win or lose, up to $250. Griffin was a little alarmed by the line for Ravens-Browns.
Yeah, I was.
Was a bit surprised by it.
One team has Lamar Jackson, and
yes, but they're also quite depleted by injury, and the other team's had a very, very good defensive season.
The defense has been okay.
Very, very good. I don't think they just held Tennessee to 94 total yards.
The stat I saw was most offensive touchdowns allowed this season. Broncos have allowed 16. Obviously, they played the Dolphins, but they've allowed 16 offensive touchdowns. The Browns have allowed 1 through three games.
That's pretty remarkable. That is pretty remarkable.
But they haven't faced Lamar Jackson yet.
Yeah, right? They haven't faced Lamar. Why did this open in Colorado for me? I don't know what just happened there. I clicked on Maryland teams, and it showed me the Broncos, the Nuggets.
Oh, who the Rockies play tonight?
Who do the Rockies play? I got nothing.
They got the Dodgers.
Why is that not popping? I got Broncos, Bears. The Broncos are 3-point favorites on the road. I mean, I get it. Both teams are atrocious, but I don't know. The Bears appear to be a money laundering scheme at this point.
Nobody watches ball.
By the way, Colorado plus 21.5 at home on Saturday, Griffin, so you can prepare for what you're going to do there.
Okay.
I
thought it was at 28 at one point.
It was 21.5, bud.
I was hoping to be 28.
Ravens 2.5-point dogs on the road in Cleveland. So if you're like Griffin and you think they should have been 2.5-point favorites, then maybe you go right over there and make that your first bet, and you use that code GlennClark23. Terps 2 touchdown favorites against Indiana on Saturday. If that's what you're thinking about, Maryland. By the way, didn't Indiana need like 4 overtimes to beat Akron?
I think they did. Was it 4?
I think it was 4 overtimes. And I still think, like, even in 4 overtimes, the total, the score was something like 27-24 or something like that. I mean, it was an atrocious football game. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can pull up the box score from Indiana-Akron to go over how this game went. It was Indiana.
Yeah, 29-27.
29-27 in 4 overtimes. I want to repeat that.
Over Akron, who...
Hang on a second. That means that regulation finished at 17-17, and then between 4 overtimes, total they could muster 10 points, Akron, and 12, Indiana.
And this is an Akron team that should have lost to Morgan.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
So only 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, maybe that's a number you start to like a little bit more, right? Like Maryland just handled their business against Michigan State. It's a bigger number, but it's at home, and Indiana might be worse. I know that seems crazy. Indiana's results this season, real quick.
They have a win over Indiana State.
Yeah, and that's a win and a 4 overtime win over Akron. That's what they've accomplished. They lost to Louisville. For what it's worth, they stayed within 20 of Ohio State. Which,
right. I mean, I guess that was, well, maybe everyone might stay within 20.
Maybe. I don't know. Man. But just think about that as you think about making some bets this weekend. Superbook.com or download the Superbook app. When we come back in, I know we had been doing it on Mondays, but it was getting lost in the shuffle. So we decided, and we didn't really announce it, that we're going to move it to Tuesdays, updating the Lamar meter. So when we come back in, we will give a Lamar meter update. That's next. This is Glenn Clark Radio. The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
All aboard! The Orioles train keeps on moving, and it's ahead of schedule. The Birds are motoring towards a playoff run here in 2023 as their magic number keeps getting smaller and smaller. I'm Paul Valley, and you can find me along with Zach Goodman every Saturday from 10 a.m. to noon right here on the Bat Around. We'll navigate you through the playoff push as the Orioles look to put an exclamation point on what is turning out to be the best season of the last 40 years. So join us on the Orioles train, and let's enjoy the ride together right here on the Bat Around.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Libation Trail. For more info, head to visitharford.com. Maryland open.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka dives into what's next for Lamar Jackson after receiving one of the biggest contracts in football history. Is Lamar ready to take the Ravens to the next level, now with a new offensive coordinator and new wide receivers? Also inside, we look at what new football coaches Brian Newberry and Pete Shinnick bring to Navy and Towson, respectively. And we meet players from the college football and soccer programs around the state. PressBox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. And you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue along. Coming up a little bit later on this afternoon, 3:30, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, and Dan Duquette. Yes, former Orioles Vice President of Baseball Operations, General Manager, will join them to talk about his guys that have been a part of this turnaround. And Mike Elias giving him credit for not leaving the cupboard bare. And which was a really neat thing for Mike Elias to do. And look, Dan Duquette has been maligned at times, but I think most of us know that Dan Duquette did a hell of a job during his time in Baltimore for everything that he could control. Decisions sometimes were not his, and not decisions he would have made, but they were made, and that's just sort of what it is. Dan Duquette. This afternoon, Stan the Fan Charles, Ross Grimsley, Luke Jackson, they will all be together at facebook.com/PressBoxSports. And if you miss it live, you'll be able to watch it at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. And now, the Lamar-o-meter. We should get some silly game show music for that or something like that. Yeah. We should get something.
All right.
Especially since we're separating and moving it to Tuesday. It's funny because when I was talking to Josh Charles, who joined us earlier in the program, he and I were chatting this morning, and he was like, dude, I just don't think I want to talk about the Ravens anymore. And I was like, okay. Like, that's fine by me. I wasn't calling you to try to get some expertise about the Ravens, but I understood what he was talking about, and he brought it up as we were chatting, which is when you lose, you just kind of want to move on from it, and particularly when it's not certain things that are lingering about a loss. When it's not, hey, do you need to fire the coordinator? When it's not, hey, why isn't this person playing? When it's not, when there are things that linger beyond, they linger beyond. But basically, as painful as this was, as we talked about yesterday, it's probably not really a statement about who the Ravens are. And it largely cleans up. For what it's worth, John Harbaugh in his press conference yesterday acknowledged that he screwed up and he should have taken a timeout. Now, that doesn't help anything, but compare it to Josh McDaniels, who's defiantly...
Well, we needed 2 scores.
I don't even have the... I don't know if he had another press conference yesterday and was addressed it again. I don't know enough about Josh McDaniels' situation. But John Harbaugh acknowledged you guys, he didn't attempt to gaslight you. And it could be worse, is I guess all I could say. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't help. It doesn't put the delicious Triscuit crackers in our mouth. That's another one we should pull from Billy Madison.
Okay.
God, I need you. What was the last movie you watched? Can we do a review at some point?
Yeah, sure, I can do.
Do you remember what the last one was that you watched? Is there anything that you watched that we haven't reviewed? Have you watched anything that we haven't reviewed?
No.
What was the last one that I told you I wanted you to watch next?
What was the thing that you wanted me to watch next? Was I think Forgetting Sarah Marshall was the last thing. It's been a Big Lebowski.
Did we review Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
Yes, we did. Yes.
What else is on the list besides
Big Lebowski?
Big Lebowski is a cult classic, so I'm really stunned that. Go ahead. What else on the list?
Something About Mary's been on the list for a while.
You haven't watched Something About Mary?
No.
All right, I want you to watch something about. I want you to watch Something About Mary. I think we've done that one before, like with a past intern. Not that you're an intern, but like I feel like we did a segment about Something About Mary because I'm assuming you've seen Billy Madison, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Not that I would even really. I won't rewatch Billy Madison. I refuse. It's a whole trope on this show. I refuse to go back and watch any Adam Sandler movie because Adam Sandler got so bad that I don't want to go back and revisit.
Just go check out. You're
not
invited
to my daughter, my bat mitzvah. I'm not gonna do. Although I had somebody tell me that Bottoms was a fun movie that I should watch. It's about like 2 teenage lesbians that start a fight club to try to hook up with cheerleaders or something like that. and it's very funny, but I don't know anything about it. But somebody told me that was one that I should give a viewing to.
Just there's a showing in the Cinemark here in Towson just now. It starts
right now.
Yes.
All right,
just
see you
started.
guys.
We can make it.
See you for Tyus Bowser tonight. Also, it's a long story, but I had to sign up for a free subscription. Did I tell you about my disaster trying to watch the Ravens game this past Sunday?
No. Free subscription.
I don't know what's going on
NFL
at my house.
Plus?
Well, I still have that.
Oh, okay.
But you can't watch NFL Plus on a TV. You can only watch it on your tablet or your phone.
No Roku app or anything?
No, there is an NFL app, but they won't let you. The NFL app for TV, for Fire Stick or for Roku, you can't watch games or Red Zone on there. You can only watch it on your, because they want you to sign up for whatever, on those. So I sit down at 12:55 and my wife said, "Hey, put the game on." And I was like, "Right, well, my plan now is I watch upstairs, she and the kids watch downstairs. That way
no one can.
It's more like they can't
when you're screaming, yeah.
No, it's more like they can't distract me, because if the kids come upstairs, they're going to want to be like, and I'm going to miss things that are happening in the game because I'm talking to the kids. So I'm like, all right, no problem. I turn on the CBS app, and that says Washington Buffalo. Why am I being given Washington? That's got to be a mistake. Let me wait until they go to the booth, because they always do that before the game starts. That's got to just be a mistake on the app, and when they actually go there, they're going to go. No, they're going to Washington Buffalo.
Well, yeah, that's what you wanted, right?
That don't make sense. I live in northern Baltimore County. I don't live in Prince George's County. I don't live in Montgomery County or even in Anne Arundel County. I live in northern Baltimore. What the F? So I'm like, what do I do now?
You just I guess I'm not.
So I'm trying to see if for some reason. So I go into another room and I pull it up in there. I swear to God, they think I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, and they give me Patriots Jets. Somehow where I live, we can't get the right IP address on the TVs. But I can get it on the laptop. I pull up the CBS app on my laptop, no problem. I'm getting the right game on there. Or not the app, but watch CBS or whatever.
Yeah,
on my
Paramount Plus now, or I guess.
So that's the thing. I'm like, maybe if I download Paramount Plus, that'll give me the right game, right? So I download and sign up for a 1-week free trial of Paramount Plus.
And it's still $12.57.
Nope. Washington. Right? It's by this point the game is kicked off.
Yeah.
Still giving me Washington Buffalo. And I'm like, I don't have the bandwidth to fix this right now. So here's how this is going to go, family. You're going to watch the game on Mom's laptop. And I put it out for them, and they lay on the couch together, and they watch the game on Mom's laptop. And I go upstairs, and I watch the game on my laptop.
Well,
I don't know how to fix it. If anybody out there knows how to fix it, how to get it so that my IP address is correct. The good news is that this week, the Commanders are back on Fox, so it won't be a problem. The DC affiliate will be showing the Ravens game, but presumably this is going to come up again at some point this season, and I don't want it to happen. And I'm at the point where the next time I might have to go to my mother-in-law's house to watch the game, and I don't want to do that, or come to the office to watch the game. And I'd rather, the point of us, the way we're doing Project Game Day, which, by the way, you can watch after every game day this season, PressBoxOnline.com/gameday, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, all brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. Project Game Day, each and every game day with myself, Rita, and a cast of characters. I think Vontae will be with us again this week, Vontae Leach, Super Bowl champion. Make sure that you check it out this and every game day. But the point of it was that I was going to be able to watch the games at home. That was the thought, that I could stay at home on Sundays. 2 consecutive Sundays. I did leave home this Sunday because I took the kids out and played putt-putt in the morning. But I would have the option of staying home all day on Sunday. I stayed home for most of the day on Sunday, which was nice because in giving the many jobs that I work, I don't get a lot of days like that. Even if I got to work, at least I'm at home. It was nice.
Well, congrats. Hopefully,
I don't. Well, you say congrats.
I don't.
There's nothing to congratulate about. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to watch the damn game.
I hope it works out.
Anybody knows how to fix the fact that my
it's a fire
my
stick?
Fire Sticks are apparently sending IP addresses either for Providence or DC, anybody knows what to do about that, so I can send, like, I tried to, like, go to the location setting of the Fire Stick, and it literally said my address. And I was like, welp. I don't know. Maybe it's something unique to the CBS app that I got to do. I don't know. And I'm going to delete the Paramount Plus app because it didn't help me in any way. Is there anything that they should have on Paramount Plus that I can't watch anywhere else that I need to? I did kind of like Tulsa King, but I gave up on it after 2 episodes. Just because I didn't have Paramount Plus.
I'm trying to think what's on Survivor's on Paramount Plus.
No, I'm good.
Which I don't know if you knew. There's a new
I'm
season
good.
of Survivor coming.
I'm good.
Well, just because every single
Griffin,
commercial break.
Oh, right. That's true. Well, they have nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's it on CBS.
So we're going to delete Paramount Plus then. And we'll go right back. But if you know how to fix it so that my Fire Stick can tell me that I'm in Baltimore and that I should be getting the Ravens games and never any other game, then that would be pleasant. If you wouldn't mind helping me with that, I would appreciate it. Now, the moral of the story is the Lamar meter, because we got very lost in this process.
As the Ravens.
They did.
Lost.
They did. If you're not aware, the new Lamar meter setting is – I almost did it. The new Lamar meter setting is based on percentage chance that the Ravens win a Super Bowl during Lamar Jackson's 5-year contract. And as of last week, it was up at 24%. If you saw it over my shoulder and somebody had bumped into it, I apologize.
I think it was Drew when he came in. He was
It's just like 24%.
80.
24% is the number. And now –
oh, no. Plummets.
Didn't plummet. It went back down to 20%.
Okay. All right.
As I said, I don't want to read too much into what happened on Sunday because I do think for the most part it was an anomaly. But I also think it's a reminder of how difficult this is. And as confident as you might feel in a player, in a team, and all of those things, it's still difficult to win. Buffalo and Cincinnati have both put together championship-caliber operations in recent years and don't have a Super Bowl title to show for it. It's really hard to win Super Bowls. And that loss could end up biting the Ravens at the end of the season. It very well could be that we get to week 17 and we're saying to ourselves, geez, if they had only beaten the Colts at home, then they'd have already locked up the division by now. They'd be able to rest their starters in the final week of the season. And instead, they got to go grind it out. It's hard to win Super Bowls. I'm not overreacting to one loss. I'm not pretending like one loss is the story of the Baltimore Ravens. But it was just a reminder that when we got swept up in the emotions of the previous week, we still got to be clear about the difficulty of winning a Super Bowl. So, I'm cool with I'm cool with the fact that 20% is still, by like mathematical equation, if you took 32 teams, it's still, I'm saying,
really good.
It's really good. Somebody asked me when I told them what I was doing, what would you, if you were setting the number for the Kansas City Chiefs, what would the number be?
To win in the next to win one Super Bowl
in the next 5 years. And at that point, the number would be, because when we do this math, it really is 100 divided by 32 times 5, right? Would be the average.
Which would be 3-ish.
100 times, no, times 5.
Right, so 3 times 5, right?
Yeah, essentially. 100 divided by 32 would be basically 3.1. And then multiply that by 5, and you get 15.6, right? 15.6 would be if everybody's opportunity, and you'd say, well, that doesn't add up to 100%, so that doesn't make sense. So my math is off. I apologize. My math is off. I'm not doing the right mathematical equation. What I'm saying is everybody has the same percentage chance to win in each year. It's like 5 different pies. And in each pie, you'd have about a 3% chance of winning. What I'm reflecting is I don't think that every year each team has a 3% chance of winning the Super Bowl. I don't think the Commanders have a 3% chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. I get it. They won 2 games, but I don't think they're good enough. I don't think the Bears or the Broncos or
your precious
the Panthers. God, I've never been more wrong about anything in my life. I acknowledge it. You got to own it. Way off. Dramatically off. I thought what happened last night at the Buccaneers, that's the story of the Buccaneers. I think we got carried away about, Baker. They're not that good. The Jets, the Giants. I don't think those teams, I don't think the Patriots have the same chance of winning the Super Bowl as everybody else does. If it was the Chiefs, the number would probably be closer to 50-50. But 20%, that's the number. 20% chance for me, the Baltimore Ravens, as of today, will win a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson in the next 5 years. All right, when we come back in, we will, I'm going to tell you who the guest will be for the Tyus Bowser show tonight, and we'll get a tidbit and tubular to wrap up for the week. That's on the way. It's Glenn Clark Radio. Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Maryland drivers, did you know you can save up to 77% on tolls with an Easy Pass Maryland discount plan? That's right, 77%. It's never been easier. Pick the plan that's right for you at driveezmd.com. We'll keep you moving.
What's up, everyone? It's Tyus Bowser, and I've had so much fun hanging out with Rita and putting up with Glenn the last couple years that I've decided to do it again. Season 3 of the Tyus Bowser Show is happening this year, as we'll be all over town, giving you the chance to get to know me and some of my teammates. As we talk football, life in general, and just say what needs to be said. You can find out more about the show by going to PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. If you don't live in the area, you can watch the shows live on Facebook and YouTube. And if you miss one, you can listen Friday nights at 105.7 The Fan. So we'll see you all season long for the Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Great Ace Memorabilia.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org. The next Tyus Bowser Show is Tuesday, September 26th at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. It's brought to you by Superbook Sports.
It's a Maryland thing you wouldn't understand.
Where the waves meet the shore, you will find Dorchester County. Hi, this is Jimmy Charles. When I think of Maryland, I think Dorchester County on the Eastern Shore, where it's open for making memories. Dorchester County, it's a Maryland thing. For more info, visit www.visitdorchester.org.
It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah. It's a Maryland thing. Hell yeah.
The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring with competitive salaries, including for experienced police officers, starting salaries between over $68,000 and over $82,000 based on your prior service time, accepting up to 7 years of service times with only 6 weeks in the academy, minimum of 2 years prior experience. And police cadet starting salaries at over $32,000 must be between the ages of 18 and 20, but you can apply starting at 17 and a half. Must have a high school diploma or GED equivalent at the time of the hire, U.S. citizen at the time of the hire, and a valid driver's license. So if you have a passion for service and want a career for life, now is the time to join the Baltimore County Police Department. Call 410-887-5542 or visit joinbaltimorecountypd.com.
Picking a restaurant to try for the first time? Let's look at the Costas Inn. Here's a few checklist items. Quality of the food? Check. Quality of service? Check. Does restaurant have plenty of free parking? Check. And finally, does restaurant have delicious steamed crabs, crab cakes, crab soup, and specials galore? Check, check, check. Costas Inn, 4100 North Point Boulevard. They check all the boxes.
Visit Harford County this fall. Celebrate arts across Harford September 15th through the 30th with dance, theater, music, and visual arts. September 29th through October 1st is the largest Italian festival in Maryland, featuring entertainment, cooking demonstrations, a bocce tournament, and family fun. If you're headed to the Maryland 5-Star, stay and play in Harford County. While you're there, enjoy the scenic views atop the King and Queen seats and experience pumpkin patches, corn mazes, and fall brews along their Harford Library Innovation Trail. For more info, head to visithartford.com. Maryland open.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
All right, back in here on GCR tonight. Had some shifting around, but Tyus was able to come through with a great, and I don't want to say backup plan, guess, but I had told you something earlier in the show, and this is the backup plan. Tyus Bowser Show from Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North. Myself, Rita, Tyus, and our friend Michael Pierce is going to be the guest, a veteran Baltimore Ravens defensive tackle, and you just heard him here on GCR last week. Really fun, given everything that Michael Pierce has gone through in his career and being back with this team now and taking on a bigger leadership role. That'll be a fun conversation. So tonight, Tyus Bowser, Ravens defensive tackle Michael Pierce will be the guest. We will be at Guilford Hall Brewery in Station North starting at 7 o'clock. It's all brought to you by Superbook Sports and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. The Tyus Bowser Show, a partnership of PressBox and Grade 8's memorabilia. Find out more, PressBoxOnline.com/Bowser. But a veteran Raven joining the show tonight. Michael Pierce will be out with Tyus Bowser. Hope that you can come join us for that. And if you can't, you can always watch the show, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports, or tomorrow at YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline, and it'll be available. You'll hear it throughout the week here on GCR and Friday night on 105.7 The Fan. All right, so that'll be tonight. Looking forward to that. I feel like, Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah.
Coming in for another visit today, given the fact that the Ravens currently have, Tyus is still out for another week, at least. I mean, we don't know that Tyus is back for week 5, but, when we asked him about it, he certainly hinted around. It's always a very awkward thing because, the Ravens have a very clear rule. You're not allowed to talk about it, right? And so I'm trying to find coded ways to talk about it with Tyus. Like, so, hey, if you missed it from the first show, it was like, Tyus, if I was, thinking about when to wear my Tyus Bowser jersey, do you think, week 5 maybe would be a good week for that? And he was like, yeah, that sounds like a good week for that. I'm like, all right, so week 5 maybe is the week that we do. He's like, yeah. So that's what we're planning on.
The Steelers definitely want to show your Tyus Bowser support that week.
But at least one more week without Tyus Bowser. We don't know about Odafe Owe. We now don't know about David Ajabo. They in a bind.
Yeah.
So Kyle Van Noy comes in for a visit and might have to play on Sunday, which ain't great, but that's where we are. Kyle Van Noy in for a visit. It's the second time he's been in for a visit with the Baltimore Ravens.
You don't trust Jeremiah Moon?
It couldn't even be Malik Ham because Malik Ham's got to be on IR for another week too, right? Kyle Van Noy. Anyway, I mean, look, Jeremiah Moon's probably going to have to play too. That's hopefully Odafe Owe.
Not even supposed to be here today.
Thank you. Little ham-fisted. But
yeah.
Little ham-fisted.
I'll get better at it.
You'll get better. We got to work on that for everything that we're doing. Yeah. We got to work on, especially with the soundboard. I'm saying, it's not something we've prioritized in the past, but I do like that evolution of a show that you can add in, because then people start, when you walk around town, whenever you do a show where, sounds are, you'll be walking around town and somebody will start yelling the sound at you because they just love it a lot. So I would like to get this show to that point, but, we got a lot of moving pieces. I understand it's difficult. All right, so Kyle Van Noy comes in for a visit. Anything else we didn't talk about?
I think that was...
I mean, the Bengals did get on in the win column last night. I don't know. I really don't know. It wasn't overly impressive. Their defense was much better than, anything else was. I was stunned at the Rams' clock. Every time you think that your team can't manage a clock.
Tutu Atwell's first touchdown should have counted.
Just because it was cool?
Well, yes, and also
I mean, it was right, but it shouldn't have actually counted. Proctor had Tutu Atwell too. Well, you got the one touchdown later, didn't you?
Didn't he have a touchdown? Yeah, he had a touchdown later, but I needed both.
Oh, you needed two.
I needed both.
So Proctor had Atwell.
I beat John in our league. I beat John Proctor by about a point and a half. I think.
All right,
I said I needed Devontae Smith to get 5.5 points. He got 6. Thank goodness.
Jeez. So apparently Proctor had Atwell in another league because we were at trivia last night, and he looks up and he's like, yes! And then I turn around, I'm like, are we sure that was a touchdown? And we're watching it, and we're not paying attention at all to trivia at that moment. Not a lot of sports last night in trivia. We finished in 3rd. Oh, God, the final question sucked.
It
I'll
wasn't,
give it.
It wasn't politics for you?
I did get a politics one, and I looked into this. It was,
it was about Wales and...
No, it was who are the two candidates that Richard Nixon defeated in the 68 and 72 elections. And one I knew it was Hubert Humphrey, but it still took me a minute to get to Hubert Humphrey. The other one I just said, I don't know, guess McGovern. And it happened to be McGovern.
Well done.
We stumbled into that one. We had a so-so night, but the two things were the sports one, which was also worded terribly. The sports one was, of all of the quarterbacks who played in the NFL last week, who has the most career passing yards?
So essentially...
And they were trying to say week 2, but because it was, it read last weekend, so it read like they were talking about this week, so then we're sitting there well, does the guys that play on Monday night count? Or what they were trying to say was week 2 of everyone who played in week 2. So they were just trying to figure out a way to rule out Aaron Rodgers. So that's why they didn't say this season.
Gotcha. Or active, I guess.
Right. Of anyone who played in week 2 who had the most career passing yards.
I feel like Kirk Cousins is up there. And you just want number 1?
I just want you to. You can only. You get to guess one name and wager how many points you think it is.
Man. So, more or less active guys. Most career passing yards. I know Mahomes.
Everyone who started in week 2.
Yeah. Everyone who started in week 2. I must be Russell Wilson.
That would have been a good guess, and it was one of the names we had on the table, but it's certainly not the correct answer.
Certainly not the correct
answer. And the only reason why it was on the table is because we didn't know, based on the wording of the question, if last night's game counted, because the obvious answer
is Matt Stafford.
Matt Stafford, of course, is the answer, and as soon as we knew that wasn't the issue, then, of course, we turned to Matt Stafford. 100% is the correct
good job.
answer.
And you wagered $1 million?
You're only allowed to wager up to 5.
No.
And it's based on if you've already used your 5, then you can wager 4. If you've already used your 4, you can use your 3. It's like that. 1, 2. There's 5 questions. You wager 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Gotcha.
And all of them. Then the final question sucked. On the 100th anniversary of Time Magazine in 2020, they did a ranking of the 10 figures that have appeared on the cover the most. And only one of them was not a U.S. citizen.
Gandhi.
Not Gandhi. Wasn't our guess.
Only one of them was not
a U.S. citizen.
Go USA.
Yeah, top 10 most covers in Time Magazine history.
Is it an athlete?
I'm not going to tell you who.
Okay. On Time, I guess not.
You don't get that information when you make a guess.
I would guess Ronaldo or something. I don't know. I'm so USA based, you know.
Do you know what Time Magazine is?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what types of people do you think would be on the cover of Time Magazine?
World leaders. Mother Teresa.
So Mother Teresa was on our list.
Yeah.
We ruled it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But it was on our list.
Who else would be on that list? Not a U.S. citizen. I don't know.
For God, this
I know.
is
I don't have.
Really.
I know. I don't have.
Remind me
have
to
a
not
guess here.
invite you out for trivia anytime.
Well,
it's not helpful.
I'm just not
you
going
can't
to
even
help with the Time Magazine question.
Well, this one's not a hard one to at least put some names down on a piece of paper. Like Winston Churchill. Would probably be a pretty good one to put down as
Joseph
a
Stalin
possibility.
probably wasn't on there.
Stalin would be a good one to write down.
But he wouldn't be on there.
Even Putin would be one to put on the list. Frankly,
Genghis Khan. No,
we
not in the last 100 years.
We know that he was named Man of the Year once. Hitler would be one to put on the list, right? We wrote all these names. We wrote down he was. That was because they said it wasn't an honor. It was just a reflection on his significance
to the year.
To the year. But we wrote those names. We wrote down Queen Elizabeth. We wrote down
what did she do?
Princess Diana. Seemed like a pretty good one. And ultimately we decided
to be
that
multiple times.
What's that?
It's multiple times, right? someone would have had to have appeared on the
Yes,
on the magazine.
yes, you had appeared multiple times.
All right, then I'm just gonna go. I like your first answer, Churchill.
Churchill. And we were between Churchill, Elizabeth, and Diane. Then we were reminded that Churchill was given honorary U.S. citizenship. So we took him off the list. And I believe Mother Teresa was as well. So
maybe Oppenheimer? No, he's a U.S. citizen.
Yeah, a U.S. citizen.
Is Albert Einstein a U.S. citizen?
Albert Einstein was not a U.S. citizen. And we only knew the Churchill thing because we had a question a couple years ago about the two people that were given honorary U.S. citizenship, and we guessed Einstein when it was Churchill. So we screwed that up. So Einstein would have been an option,
well, see,
100%.
You have a lot more trivia experience.
Einstein would have been.
Seen all the questions.
Einstein would have been an option. The answer sucked. It was a trick question for a final at trivia, which is bull s.
So they were like a U.S. citizen, or they lost U.S. citizenship or something?
The answer was Jesus.
Duh.
Thankfully, as we committed to our answer, we said, what do we wager in here? And we decided to wager 0. And so we bumped up from 5th place to 3rd place.
Because everybody else guessed.
What was everybody else?
So what did you guess? You guessed Church? No.
We guessed Princess Diana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what did other tables?
Churchill. I mean, all the things. A lot of Queen Elizabeths, Churchill, like those types of things. I mean, all the names that we had named.
No Genghis Khan.
I don't think anybody named or Chairman Mao. I don't think was a popular answer.
Mao Zedong.
It was a lot of the folks that we had named, and they were like us. They were wrong, and no one got it correct because it was a trick question, which is nonsense.
Should have known it was Jesus.
Utter
obviously.
nonsense. All right, Tidbit is brought to you today. Oh, did I say was there anything else from trivia last night that I wanted to get in? I don't think so. Tidbit is brought to you today by the print issue of PressBox, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms and at the hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox. Read it all at PressBoxOnline.com. Great cover story from Bo Smolka, all about Lamar Jackson and the contract era. Go pick it up today. What you got?
Blake Snell has a 1.2 ERA during his current streak of 23 straight starts, allowing 3 earned runs or fewer. And the only pitcher in the last 100 years to have a lower ERA in a 23-start span of a single season. This is excluding relief appearances. Do you want to try to guess? He was the 1968 Cy Young winner.
1968 Cy Young winner.
Do I give you the league? Yeah. He won a Cy Young in 68.
As a reliever?
No, not as a reliever.
I'm like, what?
Not as a reliever. And he
so
had
so read the thing again.
23 straight starts with an ERA lower than 1.2.
So then how did Blake Snell come into play?
Because he's currently on this streak.
But he's not Oh God, I'm sorry. You know what just happened in my brain?
What?
I made Blake Snell Josh Hader.
Oh.
That's what happened. I'm not even kidding. Oh my God.
Kind of works, yeah.
No, but
Padres,
you know why it
lefties.
was? Because we talked about the two of them together so much.
Oh yeah.
My brain just turned Blake Snell into Josh Hader.
So if I'd said Josh Hader, you would have thought I was talking about Blake Snell as well.
I don't know. I don't know what my brain would have done with that. But in my because remember we talked so frequently about the idea of the Orioles acquiring the two of them. Like I suddenly made them one person. It's the damnedest thing. All right.
Have to think they're both on the Orioles. And
68. Not Palmer.
No, not Palmer.
Was that the year that Denny McClain won both Cy Young and MVP?
Maybe it was. He is not the answer to this question.
Okay.
But
68. Sandy Koufax.
Not Sandy.
68. Tom Seaver? No, he was 69.
Not Tom Seaver.
Bob Gibson?
Bob Gibson, in fact, had a 23 start stretch.
Pretty good comparison, no doubt.
0.85 ERA.
Are the Padres still technically alive?
I think they needed like 17 things to go their way.
Well, I understand that, but they're still technically alive.
You're telling you there's a chance.
Telling me there's a chance, exactly right.
Just want to find out exactly what their their elimination number is down to 1. They're 5.5 back of the Cubbies. We play the Braves tonight, so.
Well, okay.
They may have, but they have to win out. So
maybe they could.
Josh Allen threw an interception over or against the Commanders. He has still not had consecutive starts.
Wow, I didn't realize how many teams are still alive. The Giants are still alive.
Yeah, they're in a wild card. Well, the Giants are in a similar boat. They're a half.
Right, I get it, but they're still alive. Like I didn't realize how many teams are still alive. I understand that like Miami is really the only other team that could. It would take bizarro world stuff for Cincinnati at this point. Like Miami's the only team that could rock the apple cart over there, whereas obviously
So
in
the
the
Phillies can still miss somehow? Wow. Yeah, I guess they can.
That would take
it would take the Padres to win out
extraordinary.
and everybody else to lose out.
Yeah, that would take something extraordinary.
Josh Allen threw an interception on Sunday. He has not had consecutive starts without a giveaway since 2020 in weeks 15 and 16. Josh Allen, the turnover prone, but the Bills still win, so maybe not as big of a deal as we can make that up to be. The Dolphins did score 10 touchdowns in week 3. That was more than every NFL team, except for one, has scored this season. 10 touchdowns on Sunday alone is the most of only one other team has scored 10 touchdowns
in a single game.
In this season through 3 games.
Oh my God! There's only other one team that scored 10 touchdowns. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I was trying to word it the best way.
Right.
What team
the
is
49ers?
Not the 49ers.
I guess they might have 9 because 30 points would be 21. Would be 21 and 3 field goals, so that would be 9 touchdowns.
5 teams with 9 and 1 team with 10 touchdowns, and then the Dolphins have 17 total.
10. One team with 10. Who am I blanking on that would have 10?
It's like surprising because of their record, but like not surprising once you think about what team it is.
Man, this is actually difficult now.
Yeah.
What team has 10? I don't know. God, 10. Arizona?
No, not Arizona. Arizona has 6 touchdowns.
Houston?
No, not
They did
Houston.
score a ton of points this weekend.
Like they're still, everyone thinks of them still as well. I guess
The
as a good team.
Chargers?
The Chargers.
Yeah,
yes.
they've been good offensively. They just haven't. That's a good point.
Chargers
All right,
have
that
10 touchdowns.
You actually described it fairly well.
Yeah. And then with 9, Buffalo, Kansas City, Green Bay, San Francisco, and Minnesota have 9 touchdowns, while the Dolphins have 17 on the season.
Okay.
Keenan Allen now has the most receptions in a game by a player to also throw a passing touchdown after getting 18 catches and then throwing a touchdown to, who did he throw the touchdown? Was
I
that
don't
Palmer?
remember.
Yeah, or Gerald Everett, maybe? Yeah, I think it was Everett.
Okay.
So the previous record was
Mohamed Sanu.
No, it was not Mo Sanu.
He did that a lot.
Yeah, 2 guys had 12 receptions in a game.
Julian Edelman?
Not Julian Edelman. One was a running back. One was a
Ronnie Brown?
Not Ronnie Brown. The running back with 12 receptions was pretty recent.
Running back who threw a touchdown pass. Oh, man. You're asking me to remember some really specific things, dude. All right, you're going to have to help me.
He's on your favorite team.
It's on my Khalil Herbert?
No, not Khalil Herbert. Close.
I don't even remember who else they're running back. It's not Roshan Johnson.
Not current Bears running back,
Oh.
but
Matt Forte?
not Matt Forte. A little more recent than Forte.
God, Montgomery?
Not Montgomery. I guess I got to give it to you.
Just tell me.
Tariq Cohen.
Okay.
12 receptions in a game where he threw
did
a
catch a lot of
touchdown
passes. I guess that
And then
makes
this
sense.
49ers receiver also had 12 catches in a game that he threw a touchdown pass.
Debo?
Not Debo. Older.
T.O.?
Not T.O. It's a good guess. Before
Jerry
T.O.
Rice?
Jerry Rice,
Alright.
12 catches and a
Jeez.
touchdown pass. Which Raven has the most receptions? And I guess we can end it there because I
God,
had a
this
longer
is painful,
tidbit, yeah.
bro.
Which Raven? He is tied for 6th all-time for most receptions in a game with a touchdown pass with 8.
I don't remember who else threw touchdown passes.
It was a running back.
Willis McGahee.
Not Willis McGahee.
Ray Rice.
Ray Rice.
I don't remember him throwing
2011.
I'm sure it did. I just don't remember it. For
In
some reason.
Seattle.
That's funny. I was still really covering the team at that point, too.
2011, their loss to Seattle in
I
2011.
believe you. I just don't remember.
Do you remember who it was that he threw
No,
it to?
not
Ed
Dixon?
Ed Dixon,
Okay.
yes.
How about that?
Ed Dixon.
Over the weekend, someone moved into the 9,000 career receiving yards. Do you remember who it was?
Well, it was played last night. I was going to guess Mike Evans.
I said over the weekend,
Yeah.
6 active players in the NFL have 9,000 or more receiving yards for their career.
Keenan Allen?
Keenan Allen is number 5, 9,689.
9,000 receiving yards, and Mike Evans is not on the list, or is
Mike
was he
Evans
already
is number
on the
2.
list?
Yes,
Mike Evans.
number 2,
Okay.
10,722. He's number 2.
Long time. Old wide receivers we're talking about. Is Julio Jones still active?
He is not still active. No.
DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins is number 1, 11,451.
Looking for the top 6, you say?
Yep, you have 3 of them.
And one of them
did it this weekend,
okay.
yes.
Huh. Who did it this weekend? I'm just going to start running over team by team. Amari Cooper?
Amari Cooper is probably going to get there this season. Well, might get there this season, but is not on the list. 8,479. He's 10th most among active players.
Amari Cooper is not on the list. Is Odell Beckham on the list?
Odell Beckham is at 7,433, 13th most among active players.
Who else would be on this list?
You got
Devontae Adams.
Devontae Adams is number 4, 9,959. So he will about to hit 10,000.
Tyler Lockett, he's not on the list.
Tyler Lockett is number 16 at 7,203.
Let's see here. Definitely not Brandon Cooks. Definitely.
Brandon Cooks is closer than you realize. Brandon Cooks is number 8 on the list.
Wow.
8,655.
Not Brandon Cooks. Go with all these guys are so young. Because A.J. Brown will get there one day.
A.J. Brown, I don't even see
but
him.
But they're both very. They're both very young.
A.J. Brown is 4,730, number 32. He is on the list.
9,000.
One of these you should be kicking yourself over. The other one
Probably.
is because you missed the part where I said players with 9,000 receiving yards.
Eckler, no.
Not Eckler.
9,000 receiving yards.
Eckler would be on this list.
Yeah.
Eckler is number 50, 3,495.
Wow.
Players.
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, of course, is number 3, 10,439 yards. And you're missing the person who crossed the threshold this weekend.
How did I not
Probably
see the
one that
stats?
you should
Yeah.
kick yourself over.
Who crossed this threshold? 9,000 receiving yards in their career had to be.
Probably speaks to how truly somehow underappreciated this player has been throughout their career.
I said Keenan Allen.
You did say Keenan Allen, who I would also argue is underappreciated.
Yeah. Adam Thielen.
Not Adam Thielen. It's so funny. Oh God, when you realize who it is, 6,893 yards for Adam Thielen.
Underappreciated guy. And he must be
despite being a mega superstar.
He's a mega superstar?
He's a mega star.
Who am I forgetting here? What conference?
AFC.
AFC wide receiver.
Yes.
Mega superstar in the. Give me a second. I said DeAndre Hopkins. And I'm not gonna be a Colts. I'm trying to go team by team here. Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs somehow.
Diggs. Of course.
Crossed the threshold this weekend, 9,991 or 9,091 yards for his career now.
Congratulations, Stephon Diggs.
Former Terp. All right, that was bad. Tidbit was also brought to you today by your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Tubular is brought to you by the Baltimore County Police Department. Looking forward to October 28th at the Public Safety Building, 700 East Joppa Road in Towson. Going to be a great day. Trunk or treat event for the kids. Just a nice, safe event for kids to get their costumes on and go get candy. Plus, if you've been thinking about joining the Baltimore County Police Department or just even have questions about opportunities that might exist, not only can you show up and ask questions, but if you decide that it's the moment, you can do it all right there on the spot. Agility test, written test, application process. Perfect day if you just want to have some touch with the community and the Baltimore County Police Department. 410-887-4584 is the phone number to call. You can find out more. Join BaltimoreCountyPD.com. All right, Orioles National Short Series opens up tonight in Baltimore. Josiah Gray on the mound for the Nats. Kyle Bradish for the Birds. 6:30 on Masson for the Orioles broadcast. Masson 2 for the Nationals. MLB Network, Dodgers Rockies at 3. Rangers Angels at 9:30. TBS Cubs Braves 7:20. Astros Mariners at 10. WNBA playoffs continue tonight on ESPN. Sun Liberty game 2 at 8. Wings Aces game 2 at 10. Preseason hockey, and then the USA Network for WWE NXT tonight at 8. Some non-sports highlights.
So there's like 3 or 4 weeks of preseason hockey.
I don't know, Griffin.
Wow.
It just started on Saturday, so I don't,
Stuff is slowly
I
coming
mean, the
back.
season goes for 11 months. Like,
new episode of Welcome to Wrexham tonight on FX.
God,
Dancing.
if you all have not seen the episode about Paul Mullen's son of Welcome to Wrexham, holy F, it's the best television I've seen in a very long time. It's incredible.
Is that one you can just pick up right
Can
in
you
the
just
middle of it?
pick up Wrexham? I feel like you'd be well served to watch it. I think
Right.
you'd be capable of watching, but I feel, dude, Wrexham is so good. It's worth investing time with Wrexham. It's just like it's so much different. It's funny because you're gonna make the comparison to Ted Lasso. It's heartwarming. It's special, man. It's a special television program.
Dancing with the Stars, season 32 on ABC tonight, as they're trying to push all these reality shows. Now they don't have to, fortunately, as everything
Right.
should be coming
Right.
back. Lele Pons, Jamie Lynn Spears on Dancing with the Stars, Adrian Peterson
Okay.
on this season of Dancing with the Stars.
Sure.
What else? Savior Complex is a new quick docu-series on HBO. It's about Renee Bach, who went to Uganda to try to treat a bunch of malnourished Ugandan children, and ended up not doing that because she is not medically certified to do this at all, and it became a big thing where people were like,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And it's kind of dives into that, I guess, white savior complex is the point of this. It's on HBO at 9
I
o'clock.
don't know that I want to watch that.
New episode of Only Murders and the penultimate episode of Ahsoka, as well as Only Murders for their respective seasons.
All right.
on Disney.
Probably time for me to start getting into Only Murders.
Yeah.
This is a tough time of year for me to make more time for TV. I should have thought about that in the summer.
Tuesdays Tuesdays you got ties about. Yeah, you're right.
It's a tough time.
Yeah.
Tough time. All right. Tubular was also brought to you today by Superbook. Again, the code is GlennClark23. Superbook.com or the Superbook app. Use it. You get a same-day first bet match up to $250. Win or lose. Again, GlennClark23 is the code. Thanks to Josh Charles. Thanks to Joe Serpico. And thanks to Jon Meoli. We'll get all that up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh, my God, it's so good.
tab at GlennClarkRadio.com. Cal Ripken Jr. joins us on the program tomorrow. Looking forward to that, as always. Jeff Newman from the Maryland 5-Star will be checking in with us and previewing the event, which we're only a few weeks away from at this point now. I guess Drew, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see.
Of all the weeks that
Right.
it wouldn't be the end of the world if Drew couldn't make it, this would be very high on the list of weeks that would be just, although he certainly wants to talk about the stupid Ryder Cup.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
All right, so that's tomorrow on GCR. Anything else?
Stuff and things.
Killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Well.
Yeah? What does that mean? Well.
No, yeah.
What?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
stuff and things.
You made it seem like you were about to tell me some good news.
Yeah,
there.
I know. I don't know why I said that.
Oh, good. Even more deflating. Thanks, everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, Live Casino and Hotel, the Maryland 5-Star, A.J. Michaels, the Baltimore County Police Department, Royal Farms, Costa Sin, Superbook Sports, Dorchester County, the Baltimore Orioles, Birdland Sports, Easy Pass MD, Hartford County, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Tyus Bowser Show tonight. Join us at Guilford Hall Brewery and Station North with Tyus and Michael Pierce. We'll see you at 7. Have a great Tuesday night. Oh, thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass. Follow us at Glenn Clark Radio, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Have a great Tuesday evening. Go Birds. Duke sucks.